Hey guys, Thom here. Before we get started on this episode of the Breaker Brief, I have an important message. It still looks like nobody's left us any Apple podcast reviews. If you like the content, go ahead and drop a podcast review. I still want to make that YouTube money. Now that that's out of the way, let's tell you about the episode. On this episode, I'm actually interviewed by Becky. She sits down with me and we discuss a wide range of topics, ranging from Breaker's mission and vision to programming and performance. On top of outlining Breaker's programming philosophy, I also drop the deets on my pet peeves in the gym, my favorite CrossFitter, and which health and fitness podcasts I'd recommend. This podcast is really long, which is why I've included timestamps. I also want to give a special shout out to Becky for filling in as guest host. I hopefully see Becky back interviewing some more people in the driver's seat for future episodes. I also like to shout out our sponsors, especially True Local. Remember, you can get a bunch of free chicken breast if you use the code BRKRFIT, BREAKERFIT, to sign up for your first box. If you have any questions that I didn't answer in the podcast, please comment down below and we'll use them for future episodes. Thanks so much for listening. Okay, guys, here it is. Episode 9?
Yeah?
Is it? Or 8?
I think it's 9.
It might be 9. 8 or 9. We're going to save this till 10, interviewing me in 10, but here we are anyways, a little early. I'm going to the cottage. I wanted to get this out of the way beforehand.
Maybe it'll end up being 9 and 10.
Maybe it'll end up being 9 and 10. It probably will be. We'll see. Awesome. Okay, so this episode, if you haven't figured it out, I guess we haven't really introduced it properly. Becky's back, but I'm the guest. So Becky will be interviewing me, asking questions you guys have answered, and hopefully getting some insight into the things you guys want to know about. So I'm going to give it over to Becky. I'm going to just be the guest. I've never been a guest on a podcast before.
I've never been the host of a podcast before.
Great. So hopefully it works out.
Awesome. So first thing I want to do is just talk about like the gym's vision and mission. And those, some people find them interchangeable, but we've kind of discussed like maybe the difference. So I'm going to read you the vision.
My vision?
Your vision.
That I sent you?
Yeah, I'm not telling you what your vision is.
That'd be fun though. You could do that.
I'm going to read you the vision that I am aware of, and then we can discuss it for a little bit.
Okay.
So the vision is, you envision a community of like-minded individuals striving for physical and mental self-betterment through movement.
Correct.
Awesome. You want to break that down a little bit? So community.
This is a community.
Right.
But also we have an online community now. So and we're hoping to, or I'm hoping to, there's no we really in this aspect. I'm hoping to grow that through 2022.
Okay.
And just offering something that is potentially somewhat unique. I mean, everyone can do movement, but attacking it in a way where there's a consistent effort to get better. And then I find personally, like when I try and get better at the gym, I use that focus on other aspects of my life, either relationships, or I guess it's kind of weird because my business is the gym. But like in the gym, and then I use it on my business. And I find that when I'm not doing that, I'm not as effective at other parts of my life. Like when I'm here working out with other like-minded individuals, it kind of rubs off. And the other thing is there's that whole kind of like cliche of having 5 people. You're like the sum of the 5 people who you surround yourself with.
Right.
And that's kind of always driven me as I want to like surround myself with people who are better than me, so I become better. It's selfish. Like one of the reasons I have a gym is selfish, is I want to work out with people who are better than me, and I want to like learn from people who are better than me. And a lot of our members are like very successful in all avenues of their life, so I feel like I benefit from that. And if I benefit from that, I think other people benefit from that.
Yeah.
Because as I said in one podcast, I'm not special, right? Nobody's special, so
Right.
I'm not special if I believe that. And so like those rules probably apply to me like they apply to anyone else.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. So let's talk about like-minded for a second.
Okay.
What makes them like-minded? Is it a mindset thing, an attitude
I think
thing?
it's an attitude thing. It's more an attitude thing. People always ask, can I do CrossFit? And anyone can do CrossFit, but CrossFit isn't for everyone.
Okay.
Like not everyone's going to enjoy it. And then our version of CrossFit, Breaker CrossFit, is not for everyone who does CrossFit. We want people, and it doesn't matter like your physical stature or capability is not nearly as important as your ability to show up regularly and consistently try and get better. So It's not just about like being consistent, but consistently trying to improve. Because if half the group stagnates, the other half is more likely to stagnate. But if everyone's trying to improve, like the whole, what is it? Another cliche. I'm gonna make this podcast about cliches. A rising tide raises all ships. Right, kind of thing. And so that's kind of where I want. So I want more people who want to be part of that rising tide. I think that answers that question a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
So I just don't like the people that, not the people, anyone's welcome. Again, I'm not like trying, but like people who like show up and are constantly negative about the workout aren't necessarily the best fit. Like you can make jokes about, oh, this is gonna be hard, but if you show up and you're like kind of not paying attention and you're not trying to improve, that's not necessarily like a fit for you. And we have people who will like joke about it, but then once the workout starts, they're still like, they're trying to improve the most.
Right.
So it's like actions speak louder than words. Whereas if someone shows up and they're not paying attention and they're kind of like off to the stars, or they're on their phone, or that's not necessarily the best type of person we're looking for.
Right.
Because if that person's on Instagram, maybe I want to go on Instagram, even though I know I shouldn't be.
Right. That's something I wanted to say right after that. Oh, so I think a big point of that was it has nothing to do with what your current physical abilities or skill abilities or anything like that is. It's all about how you approach coming into it.
But what's interesting is obviously the people who approach it regularly, like their physical abilities develop rather quickly.
Yeah.
The mind is definitely way more important than the body in terms of that. Like if you believe you can do something, I'm not saying like, if I believe I'm going to go to the moon, I'm probably not going to go to the moon, no matter how much I believe it.
Right.
But if I believe I can get up at 5:30 in the morning and work out, I probably can. If I think getting up at 5:30 in the morning is going to be the worst thing in the world, I'm going to hate it. I'm going to hate getting up at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I know it's like cyclical, but like there is some thought there. And the older I get, the more I believe in the power of belief, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was younger, I was like, whatever, it is what it is. But now I'm like, hey man, if I think this is going to be a positive experience, it's probably going to be a positive experience. If I think this is going to be a negative experience, it's probably going to be a negative experience.
Yeah. You tend to find what you're looking for.
Exactly.
Okay. Awesome. So when you and I first talked about vision, this was like back, I think, when Breaker first became Breaker. Yeah. You told me a story about what made you decide to kind of dedicate your life to this. Do you remember the story?
Yeah. And now that you reminded me of it.
Do you want to tell that story?
I guess we can. Kind of jumping into it, just saying, as an experienced podcast
host. Oh,
you think
so?
Yeah, it should have came up organically, Becky. No. So I guess it's kind of like what got me into coaching CrossFit. So I started coaching CrossFit part-time, just because not necessarily I wanted a free membership at a gym, but I was a student and it helped. Like I wanted to coach. I was intrigued by it, but I wasn't like all in as I am obviously now. But I was working with a lady and I did her introduction or her foundations at the gym I started working at. And I asked her what her goals were, and she said that she wanted to be able to do the monkey bars with her kid. And I was like, that's a good goal. We can help you with that. And obviously CrossFit can help you with being able to do the monkey bars with your kid. And I was like, if you come regularly and listen to us, we'll get you there. And then I think 6 or 8 months or sometime in the future, she like came up to me and was like, Thom, I did it. And I was like, what did you do? I completely forgot. She's like, oh, I did the monkey bars with my kids. And I just want to thank you because the only reason I was able to do that is because you told me I could do it. I was like, oh, that actually is super awesome. Because she had lost a lot of weight. She was able to play with her kids. Her quality of life had improved. And I was younger at the time. So I didn't necessarily appreciate that as much as I would have now. But it really stuck with me. At the same time, I was doing research on nutritional policy in Canada. And my goal was to like try and help change nutritional policy in Canada. And I realized as I was doing my research that like a bunch of people who are a lot smarter than me had tried a lot harder than I was ever going to try to like make a positive change on the macro level. So like on like the national policy level, but I was able to make a change on the micro level. And I guess to go back to your previous discussion of my vision, now I guess I made that change on the micro level, but now with technology and things, I realize that I can make that change on the macro level just differently, right? As I theoretically, as like we take the community I'm fostering here and try and make it bigger via both in the gym as well as through our online stuff. And
not to mention the people who are probably affected by that one woman's change, her child.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's like, okay, so now that's a positive impact I've had, and that's good. And I've always tried to make a positive impact, and that is one way. I think that was when I realized that I could do it with coaching, and I like coaching. Right. I didn't necessarily like academia.
Okay. So I actually wanted you to tell that story before I read your mission statement.
Okay.
So to have a plan here.
Okay.
So the mission is then Help clients to define and attack their limitations with knowledge and compassion in a diverse, inclusive, and supportive environment. So I think that fits really well. I think you're able to take that like that one situation with that woman and say like, I can affect other people in this way. And that's what it's about, right? Is removing limitations.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I always, and reasons Becky is reading these is I wrote them, but I don't remember them. So it's like, Becky, you're going to read them. Because I think it's important to always just like, it's more important to embody those statements than it is to actually like have them.
For sure.
Right. And I just wanted to realize like why Becky is reading them. I don't remember them.
Yeah.
I wrote them. Becky helped me write them a long time ago.
And the reason I actually wanted to start this conversation with them is because, like you just said, now as we go through these questions, we can talk about how we embody them.
Yeah. Try to.
I
think if you think you're embodying your mission 100%, you're probably not.
Well, and it's a good balance check too,
yeah.
Right? So if we get through some questions and you're like way off, you're like, man, that does not match my mission or vision statement.
Like the question?
It's like, no, your answer. If you're like, oh, actually, my approach to this does not meet my mission, it's a good chance for you to self-reflect.
Interesting.
And then edit it out of this podcast.
Yeah, that's not going to show up there. That seems a little intense. That's not what we're looking for. It's just positive propaganda.
All right. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about who the ideal person is, right? Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you want to add to like the ideal member, the person that you were like so stoked to see walk through this door?
Anyone. Like, you don't have to be an athlete, but you have to develop an athlete's mindset. Okay, and that means like you have to be okay with getting yelled at. Like, yeah. Like I not like berated, but like if you're messing up a bunch of times and it's like slowing the group down, it's just like anything else. Like you're going to get that. I really like how Brandon's starting to do it too now. It's positive.
Okay.
But just have that athlete's mindset because I think that there's a lot of, I don't want to get like sound like an old person, but I think that there's a lot of people get like handheld a lot. And I think a lot of it's beneficial. I think the world has progressed positively, but I do think sometimes it is excessive, if that makes sense. And I think it's important. Like if I mess up, like when I mess up here, Mallory will get mad at me if I and the things I mess up are like on the business side and she'll let me hear it. Like, why haven't you paid the HST yet? And I was like, I deserve that. I should have paid it. And I remember to pay it for like 6 months and I forget again. And it's a cycle.
Okay.
But the only reason I haven't done it is because like I'm lazy. Like I don't like doing it. So I forget to do it. And I get yelled at. So I think, but that athlete's mindset, I think that's something that is beneficial. I think that I played sports as a kid and I think it was a positive experience on me and having that kind of team thing. Mm-hmm. Also, I think I always like the like if like the coach is like upset with everyone, it's always funny because the team kind of bonds around that, which creates like a bonded team. And I've always tried to embody that a little bit.
Okay.
And then, so having an athlete's mindset is good, but and anyone can have an athlete's mindset. I think that's important.
Yeah.
Like even if you've never played sports before, some of our like best members, like Mallory herself didn't play really sports growing up, but she now definitely has an athlete's mindset when it comes to like her approach to CrossFit.
Right.
Joanne S. I can't pronounce her last name super well. She has an athlete's mindset, never played sports. But like she's fitter now at 50 something than she's ever been in her entire life. But she comes in to get better. She understands that she messes up and she appreciates the correction because she keeps coming 5 days a week.
Okay.
Does that answer that question?
Yeah.
It's super long-winded.
So it sounds like you have expectations of people coming in here.
I spoke to myself. Yeah, I have expectations of people coming in because like you're a part of a group.
Yeah.
So like, and I don't, when I say weakest, I don't mean physically. I think it's super, like to me, it's very obvious, but I know it's really important. I'm just gonna keep always saying that, but you're only as strong as your weakest member.
Yeah.
So if like 2 people are off in the corner talking while I'm talking to 10 other people, those 2 people are going to be distraction of those 10 other people.
Right.
And that's not fair because those 10 people came here to get fitter and they can socialize afterwards. But like when they're here, they want to get better. And my assumption is everyone here wants to get better. And if someone's taking away from that, it takes away from the group experience. So my only expectation is that's my expectation is that like the group comes before everything else. So that extends to like everything. So the group comes before everyone, like the group experience, the experience of the 2 people next to you is more important than your own experience.
Okay.
Right. And if every single person believes that, everyone's experience is going to be great. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, cause then you have 2 people looking out for your experience.
Right.
Right. So that trickles down to when there's new members, that trickles down to everywhere. So like, that's my expectation.
So let's talk really quickly about like the actual things that those people can do to ensure the group experience. So we're talking about like showing up on time.
Yeah, that's the big. I know there's gonna be a question about my pet peeve. It's obvious when you're late. That's a pet peeve of mine, because like I know it happens. Like someone came late one day, and if you guys know, Sunny's like late constantly. Allie was late, and like she texted me. She was texting me. She was gonna be late. It was an accident. She still showed up on time. She showed up like 1 minute late, and she was running from her car to her spot. And this was outside.
Yeah.
And this was during the holiday Monday class. And I was like, hey, Allie, I like your outfit. And Sunny was like, why are you so nice to her? She was late. When you're not nice to me, I'm like, Sunny, you're late 4 out of 6 days a week. Like at that point, it's different.
Right.
I know Allie's upset that she's late.
Yeah.
Because it always happens. And Sunny's like, I'm upset that I'm late. I'm like, yeah, you're upset that you're late, but you're not fixing it. But lateness is like my only pet peeve.
So you're empathetic that like sometimes
sometimes it happens. And because I'm usually on time, like I understand if someone's always on time, how upsetting it is to be late.
Gotcha.
But as a group, like if and the thing is like, because it goes to that 2 people for 1 person. If you're late, the next class is probably going to be starting late. And then it says a domino effect, right?
Yeah.
Or there's something I can't get to in the lesson plan that I really wanted to. And so it's impacting my experience because I really like teaching. Gotcha. So I guess my pet peeve would be lateness. That's the thing that bugs me. Because I understand things happen, and like we keep an eye on the traffic, and if there's a major accident like impacting it, we'll start class late and change it. We've done that pre-COVID when we had more classes. We've regularly been like, oh man, there's an accident at the turnoff. Guys, I know some of you here, we're gonna start class late.
Right.
But there's habits, and then there's like the opposite of a habit.
Right.
Rare
there's an external event.
Yeah.
And
there's like blips, and then there's habits, and so
Sure.
like being on time is like one of the things you can do to make everyone's experience better.
Okay. After showing up on time, what is expected?
There are a couple things. Don't speak when a coach is speaking.
Sure.
I think that's a really big thing. Basically, because like I want to listen. Like maybe you're saying something I want to listen to. I'm talking and I feel left out. But here's the thing: if I feel left out and you're talking to one other person, someone else might feel left out. Yeah. And that's like really crappy for that person. Like to feel left out, especially if they're new. If 2 people are off in the corner talking, right? Feel left out. It's like, ooh, that's not so good. And I was like, I want to listen, but I don't know. It just creates an experience that's not inclusive, right? And that goes back to my inclusivity. Mm-hmm. If 2 people are like, I agree that people are friends and all that, but like talking when I'm talking at the board brief or something, and there's new people, not so great. So that would be one big thing.
Okay.
Focus. When you're here, focus. Like try not to, I know like there's a lot of shit going on, especially now more than ever. That's like the second swear on the podcast ever. We're going to lose our monetization on YouTube. We're making so much YouTube money. We're not. You need 1,000 subscribers to make YouTube money.
So close.
Yeah, so close. But I know there's a lot of stuff going on, but I personally have had a lot of stuff going on over the last 18 months. And now when I come back to class, I want like a time when I can come into class and focus. I know sometimes like when I'm here as an athlete, I'm a lot quieter than when I'm as a coach. That's because I kind of want to get my workout in, right? That's my time to focus. Mm-hmm. So just like there's a time for chatting. Like if we're doing a heavy day, so a day with like back squat max or something, then you can chat. But if we're trying to get through some instruction, just focus. You can talk after class. You can talk like during the bathroom break, but really have a focus and a plan for the day.
Got it.
And then if you find someone struggling, like, and you're an experienced athlete, help that person. Like make it your point to like, don't like coach them, but if they look lost, just tell them where the bathroom is, tell them where like, most of the stuff is in people's station now, but if people like look lost, like help them. And then obviously like before class, ideally, like introduce yourself. Like if you're hanging out in the parking lot and you see someone you don't know, introduce yourself. If you're at the board and I haven't started talking yet, introduce yourself. After class, definitely. And I think like maybe post on their sugar wad if it looks like they tried really hard, like try and make it a point to make people feel welcome. So that would be another thing.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, making people feel welcome is really important. And realize that like, even if like, oh, that person might be taking a spot for me in class, you should still make them feel welcome because we have plenty of open class spots, including 5:30 a.m. where Becky and I work. Becky and I work out at 5:30 a.m. So does Austin, Kiana, Mallory. We got David now.
Oh,
Silent Assassin David. Yeah.
Right. Fast runner, that guy.
Fast runner. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Awesome. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, I think that's key. I think it's really easy for people to forget what it was, if they've been doing this for a while, especially because they have such close-knit friends here, what it was like walking in these doors the first time when you didn't know anyone and you were already unsure of whether or not you could even do this.
Yeah. So.
Right. So yeah, super scary. So that kind of leads into the flip side of that coin. What are some maybe member deal breakers or reasons you would tell a member they may not be a good fit for Breaker or even revoke their membership?
I've revoked one membership ever. I'll tell both stories because you remind me of one. I've revoked one membership ever.
Yeah.
Someone was lifting. I asked them not to lift that much weight. They didn't change their weight. I changed their weight for them and they added the weight back on. And I let it go. And then they did it again. And then I was like, okay. And I basically said, hey man, this isn't for you. Like maybe there's a good life, maybe we'll different. I'm just like, this is not how we do things here. And it was positive. Like he wasn't mad about it because I refunded his entire month, right? Like whenever I've kicked someone out, I've refunded it. The one time I refunded his entire month. So he got a bunch of free fitness. So he was fine with it. But he wasn't listening. And my big thing is like, I can deal with most people. Like it's not a big deal to me, but I don't want my coaching staff to have to deal with people like that because like it's not their business and it's not their primary, for the majority of them, it's not their primary source of income. They do it because they like helping people and it's their hobby. And I think they appreciate my mission and vision a little bit, or at least want to help me embody that. But I don't want them to have those conversations with people because I hate having them and it's my job. Like I don't want Becky, when she coaches her 1 day a week, to have to come in and like deal with some dude who won't like check his ego. Yep. Right? Like I don't expect her to take the weight off the bar, but I also don't want that dude to get hurt. I think the other thing is important is like, I'd rather have someone leave because I yelled at them than leave because they get hurt. Yeah. Right? Like I yell at people a lot, especially when I think they're going to hurt themselves. It's always dudes. It's always more often dudes. It's not always dudes. There's a couple ladies, but I will get mad at people when I think they're going to be hurt themselves. And that's why the focus is important too. Without focus, you hurt yourself. I'd rather have someone like leave a negative review because I yelled at them than like leave a negative review because they got hurt. Right. Also, there's the whole lawsuit issue with injury that is a mess. This isn't real wood, but I don't want to have to ever deal with. I haven't dealt with it yet. And I don't want to ever have to deal with it. Yeah. The biggest injury right now is myself. Let's do a box. Damn shit. And then the other time, this is a funny story. We can laugh about it now. Story, yeah. So I was doing a consult. This is back pre-COVID, and I did a lot of like desk consults with people instead of just having them try a class. And this was like, it's different. It was weird. Pre-COVID is a little different. This lady came in and she was like looking to get quote unquote toned, and she was afraid she was going to look too bulky. And we were talking about that. And that's something that comes up not so much anymore, but it used to come up a lot. Like it used to be like a number one concern. I'm going to get too bulky. I was like, man, that's a whole can of worms. It's not going to happen anytime soon. But then she said, I don't want to look like her. And she pointed at Becky. At which point I was like, ma'am, I don't think this is going to work out. I said a little bit more than that. And I tried to be polite about it, but I didn't let her even like continue the conversation. Yeah. And if she'd pointed to any member, I would have said that, but it was especially like, I was like, that's super like, I'm not even trying to address why that's a dumb thing to say. Yeah. Right. I'm like, man, I know that I've had another story that involves Becky just as a relation. I had a lady come in and she was like doing a trial class, and Becky was here working on some stuff. And she was like, I just don't think it's for me. It's for young people like her. And I was like, ma'am, how old are you? And she told me her age. And I was like, that lady's older than you. And so that's like right. Yeah. But that was a positive experience. Yeah. Right. Because she was like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah. I mean, she hasn't any kids. Right. Right. Which is always a cat, but still. Sure. Right. Or now I can use Trina as an example. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Totally. So those are both attitude things, right? I've never kicked someone out, and like I'm gonna rephrase it, for not being capable of doing something. Right. Right. And the other thing I like to tell people is, this happened a lot when we were doing a lot of one-on-one foundations. People always think they're the worst person I've ever seen. Yeah. Right? I've been doing this 10 years. Okay. And I started coaching with foundations. And then when I moved to coach in Toronto, I did like the majority of the foundations for a couple of years at a gym that was like 300 members. So I was doing a lot of, I would do like 6 sessions a day sometimes, 4 to 6 sessions a day of foundations. Right. There's a good chance I don't remember the worst person I've ever seen, but there's an even better chance that it isn't that person. So if you have like, even now we have people who are like, I have like spouses, not my spouse obviously, but there's people's spouses or partners who are like afraid to come in for that. I was like, man, no.
Right.
And some of the people who are like the furthest behind, who've stuck with it, are now like you would never have guessed. And I haven't kept tabs on the majority of the people I've worked with, but I know of a few, especially from that place in Toronto, who've like lost hundreds of pounds, who started with their foundations. And I was like, oh man, you're squatting to like a 26. Like I have a lady who was squatting to a box like, I guess this high. Now she's like lost 100 pounds. Like it's right. Everyone starts somewhere, but it's your attitude that impacts you more than anything. Yeah. Which is why we try and embody a specific an attitude that I believe is the most effective attitude towards reaching those goals.
And again, why it's so important, not just for you and staff to like foster that welcoming community, but also for the members who have been here a really long time. So what are some things that happen what are some things that members maybe start to do, even though the intention isn't malicious, that takes away from the welcoming community?
I think it's when people like really start to, I hate the word clique, but clique up. Yeah. Like when you're like talking and your back is turned to someone and they're new, and you're probably not doing it on purpose. You're just trying to catch up with your friend, but like put yourself in the other person's shoes there. And it's really weird right now. And I get that. Like in the past, I would just take new people around the gym and you could see each other's faces and it'd be a little bit different. So I think now it's like more important that we make an effort to be really open, because like I can't take people around the gym to introduce them to people necessarily, because there's supposed to be 2 meters of space at all times. Right. Unless you're wearing masks. And I can't do some of the stuff that I would do in the past to break that ice. So now it's kind of important people do that. And in general, it's just like if you see a face you don't recognize, the first thing you should do is introduce yourself, right? Especially now, because like it's kind of weird. We don't necessarily have the ability to do like as many introductions as we want, because we're trying not to have too much class overlap. Yeah. But we're also trying to make sure we have enough classes so everyone can get in. So we don't want to have space between classes. So we're doing our best to get people through the door quickly. That means just people need to like kind of like make themselves available to new people. Right. But like our new people, like I talk to the new people pretty regularly, seem to be having positive experiences as a whole. So this isn't like a lecture. I don't want like, it's not a planned lecture. Right. I know that when I started here a long time ago, Becky was a member, and it was something that she was very passionate about, because you didn't feel welcome when you started here.
Yeah, when I first came here, before it was Breaker.
Before I was here.
Before you, yeah. I don't remember exactly what class I dropped into, but I remember there was a tight-knit group of friends, and nobody said a word to me. And it's, even if you've been doing CrossFit, it's always a little strange to come into a new gym and different dynamics and stuff like that. And so I ended up trying a different gym and going there for a little while, because they were a lot friendlier.
Exactly. And then we wouldn't have had Becky if she didn't come back, because she didn't like the other gym at all.
That's not true. It was just farther and more expensive.
They don't exist anymore.
I know, but I still like the people from
there. I know. And but like the other thing for me is like, man, there's no gyms around here now. There's no CrossFit gyms around here. I can do whatever I want to, you guys.
Monopoly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. No. Did you feel like you got?
Yeah, and I think like I understand it's weird. Like I'm kind of weird too with like we've been in isolation for so long. So it is kind of weird, and I get that, and that's why I'm not like too concerned about it. I'm assuming as things like it'll all work out. Because everyone's kind of weird right now. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So that was kind of the general break specific stuff I wanted to talk about.
Great.
You're recording. Okay, good.
We're just going to record it and we'll figure it out later.
Awesome. Now I want to get into a bunch of the audience questions.
Oh, man.
Which I've kind of sorted into 3 different sub-subjects. Okay, so I think it makes sense to first talk about programming, the questions people have about programming. Then we'll get into more specific training or athlete development questions. And then we'll get into some personal questions. And I imagine at some point these will overlap. So if we end up answering some in the meantime, that's totally fine. But the first question I want to ask you about programming is kind of just to talk about how you structure your cycles, how you plan week to week, or even how far in advance do you plan this stuff?
Okay, so programming is interesting. Becky and I had like a brief chat about this beforehand. One, it doesn't matter to you guys. Like in general, it doesn't matter. People really like to like talk about it. How can I like? I try not to like throw. People like to make a big deal about it because it's the easiest thing to sell. Yeah. Like so, programming, like so other coaches will like be like, our programming is so and so because it's the easiest thing to sell. Like the easiest thing you can do is sell someone programming, because you write it once. It's like a product that has like infinite earning potential. So you're getting nowadays, it used to be like all these people who sell programming put it on their website for free. Invictus used to be free. All comp training used to be free. Like they all used to be free. And then they realized they could make money off of it. I just names. They're never going to watch this podcast. It doesn't matter. But like, it doesn't matter nearly as much as people think it does.
Okay.
So that's the first caveat. Before we talk about it, I'll talk about it because I do it. But it's not nearly as important as people think it does. And the people who think it's important usually mess it up too much. So Rich Froning he's programmed by doing what they tell you to do in the level 2 method or level 2 manual, which is he looks at the previous 3 days of his workouts and he fills in the holes. So like he looks, and in level 2, they teach you this. You look at like, we've done a long workout, we've done a medium workout, we've done a long workout. We haven't lifted heavy. So we need just a day that's a back squat.
Right.
Or we've done 2 short workouts and a heavy day. We need a long workout. And they look at the movement patterns they've done. It's like, oh, we've done a push and a pull and a pull. We've done some conditioning, but we haven't done any overhead pressing. And then it's like, oh, we need a day that's a strict press. So that is the first thing that guides my programming. Okay. So the first thing that guides my programming and the thing that I do the most is look at the previous 3 days and write the day.
And just so that's just for variation.
Yeah. But that's also like all you need to do, especially if you're working out an hour a day. If you're coming to class an hour a day, which is what CrossFit is, like everything after that's a little bit different. But if you're doing the CrossFit class, maybe doing a little bit of accessory work, you don't need what's called periodization, which is where people like try and vary like how much weight they're doing, how much like of a certain movement they're doing. There's some rules I follow, but like you don't need a ton of periodization because you're working out at most like 6 hours a week. There's like 148 hours in a week. I think that's the number. That could be a guess. I have no idea. There's over 100 hours. We'll say that. There's around 150. I know it's like 24 times 7, but like I'm not doing that math right now. There's a ton of hours in a week. 6 is not very much. You don't need to periodize your programming. Okay. You just need to make sure there's variance and progression built in, which we'll talk about in a minute. So variance comes from that, like looking at the last 3 days and then making sure you do another day that's different. And that's how CrossFit has programmed for a long time. That's how the games are programmed. Like if you break down the games workouts, if you go every 3 workouts, that's how the games are programmed for the most part. And that's like my first thing. That's the core of how I program. On top of that, there are specific skills. So when I say progression, I mean for a period of time, we're going to specifically focus on one thing, but it's just like a little bit. Like it's not a ton for like the class programming. Like so pre-COVID, we did like a clean and jerk cycle. All that meant is we did a little extra stuff for our press in the warm up and a little extra stuff for pulling. So maybe like if I had to like add something in and I was stuck, I would make sure it was stuck towards clean and jerk. Okay. Does that make sense to you? So like our skill-based, we have a skill-based kind of like cycles. Mm-hmm. So each month I try and look at what we need to work on as a gym.
Do you look at that based on
past month results?
Okay.
Yeah. So I look at so we did clean and jerk because the open had a clean and jerk in it. And it's weird because I haven't really thought about it because during COVID, I was kind of more like just trying to keep it going. But we did the open and people there was a clean and jerk workout. And as a whole, the gym did the worst at the clean and jerk workout. So then we did a deadlift cycle to work on pulling from the floor with some pressing built in as accessory. And then we did a clean and jerk cycle. So it just basically worked out to be about 3 months. And then people got better at clean and jerking. With COVID, the first time we did a body weight stuff and we focused on getting better at like L-sits and SLIP practice, so scales and all that, which carried over to other body weight movements, but we focused on body weight stuff just because, and that was not dictated by what we were bad on, but that was dictated by circumstance, which is not how I'd normally do it. And now we're back in the gym. So now I'm back to looking at the data.
Okay.
But here's the thing, over that year-long period, the people who did the workouts consistently to the best of their ability and equipment still have improved, right? Or have at least remained somewhat similar. Like our not super advanced, but our advanced athletes may have stayed the same around. And if you say you're snatching and you snatch 90% of your 1 rep max, in my opinion, you stay the same. You haven't gone down.
Yeah.
That's a day-to-day occurrence. So Becky didn't snatch a PR this morning, but she snatched close to it. Yeah. Right? We had a bunch of people hit new PRs, and we had like a whole bunch of people hit clean and jerk PRs last week.
Yeah.
Today's format wasn't as conducive to PR as last week, but last week we had a bunch of people hit clean and jerk PRs. So, but we weren't as focused on it.
Yeah.
So I do that stuff because it might give us like a 5% edge, and I know, but it's not as important as people think it is. This is the weird long window I was trying to say that. Okay. We literally worked out in our living rooms and our basements, and people who consistently got better, consistently put the work in, still got better. Because I still stuck to that 3-day block period, even when we were in full like lockdown.
Yeah. Kiana had 2 35-pound dumbbells for all of lockdown.
Yeah.
She PR'd her.
Yeah, exactly. Kiana, 2 35-pound dumbbells, PR'd her clean and jerk. And we've been back with barbells for like not even 2 months.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think that speaks to the lack of necessity with programming. Now, I know that most people listening to this aren't competitive, but if you are competitive, it matters more for a variety of reasons. Like, so say you're doing full rockbreaker. Rockbreaker has periodization because people are training 15 hours a week. That becomes a lot more demanding, and you have to be more careful. You're going to open yourself up to repetitive use injury because you're doing things a lot more repetitively. If you're doing snatch once a week, you're doing pull-ups twice a week, even if you're doing them kind of bad, not a big deal. We'll slowly adapt you. But as soon as you start adding volume, you need to be careful with how much you're doing, because that's where you can start like getting tired and broken down. Okay. Does that answer that question?
Yeah. So this is not a planned question, but who should or shouldn't be doing rockbreaker on top of class?
So
not name, obviously, not specifically.
You're sleeping 8 hours a day. Mm-hmm. Ideally, you've already gone through Becky's nutrition thing, or you have a handle on your nutrition. Like you nail nutrition. You don't need to be doing the workouts RX, but like I don't necessarily think you'll benefit from doing rockbreaker because there's not always instruction if you're not doing the workouts RX. Yeah. And you have the time to do it. I was doing it. I'm not doing it anymore. I have to run a gym now. Yeah. When we were closed, I was doing it because like I like training, and it mostly helped me mentally. I was doing it not because it was physically helping me, but mentally helping me. Like it gave me something to do when we were like fully closed the second lockdown. So training was like, I can focus my energy on this for a couple hours a day and at least look forward to it and have something to improve. Now that we're open, I don't need that in my life as much. Mm-hmm. But if you do want to get better, like you want accessory work or something, if you look at the description of every day, there's like some suggestions, right? And I recommend people start there. That's what I do now is like if I have time, I'll just pick the thing I'm bad at and focus on it. Right. And it'll tell you what to do. And some days maybe there isn't stuff for you to work on. Just don't worry about it that day. But there's like usually 1 to 2 options of things you can pick from the other tracks to do. And that's what I think most people, if they're trying to get better quickly, should do. It's just like, and a lot of it is bodybuilding, which we found, myself and some of the coaches who have been doing this for a long time have talked about it, to be the most effective thing you can add. Yeah. Or slow, steady state cardio, aka go for a long run.
Because we can't do that here.
Because, well, we can, it's just no one will show up.
Yeah.
But also because it's boring and also it's low enough impact. Ideally, like if you have a bike, that's even better than running because it's even lower impact. Yeah. But like working on your like base is really useful. And that's like kind of the base of our fitness pyramid is conditioning. So you can always like work on that.
Okay. So for the question, how far in advance are you programming? To me, it kind of sounds like you have an idea of something you'd like to improve on for a month. Yeah. But then do you operate in 3-day blocks right now? No. So like it's changed like regularly. I change it depending on like if I know I'm going to be busy, like I'll write a whole bunch of programming. I used to write like 6 weeks at a time, and then I found that like I'd want to change stuff a lot. Yeah. So I don't do that. I have like I have a general like idea of where everything's going, like 6 or so weeks in advance. And then I have like a plan for the entire year in my head. Oh, wow. Yeah. Because like and everything's weird. It's based around the open, and now the open is back to normal. So I can go back to doing that. So there is like a general plan around the open, but like it's like a loose plan because the other thing is like some people take vacation. Like very few of us are doing enough consistent fitness to do a periodized program. Mm-hmm. So I have like a loose plan. But what I found is like I'd see a workout on Instagram I want to do, or the games come up. And so I want to do some of the games workouts. So I actually had a week of programming written, and then I was like, oh man, these games workouts look good.
I can put them in. And so I discarded the week I had written. Right. So it's kind of like, or I noticed like I want to be able to react to things I see in class. Like today, people had some struggle with speed off the floor in all 3 of my classes on their snatch. So that's something that next week we can do some halting deadlifts. So they were either too fast or they weren't hitting position. So we can do halting snatch deadlifts next week as to instantly address that. Right. So like on a day that we were going to do strength or a day we were going to do a snatch metcon, instead of doing what I had originally planned, I'm going to switch it out to address that. And if I wrote like 6 weeks in advance or a month in advance, I wouldn't be able to like fix that right away. Right. And so I think it's really, and that's why like if I'm here and not coaching, I'm still kind of looking at what people are struggling with. And I want to be able to provide like a fix for that as quickly as possible. But I've done writing a week or a month in advance, and it's way easier. Yeah. Like having it all done is way easier, but it's not nearly as effective. And so I've kind of committed to doing the opposite what a lot of people do and just writing it a week at a time, but having a plan. Okay. I have like and then I also have a template, a 9-day template that I follow that's like training, recovery, training, skill. So it's 3 days on, 1 day off, but the day off, you can still come in and get a good workout. Right. So I stick to that template, which makes sure I don't mess up too bad. Right. Okay? And there's a couple other rules I follow. Unless it's like a very specific reason, we won't do like lunges the day before heavy squats, but we'll do lunges the day after heavy squats. Because the lunge, like a heavy lunge workout, or not heavy, but like a large amount of lunges is more fatiguing than a squat. You're going to have a bad squat if you lunge a whole bunch the day before. And you're more likely to hurt yourself because your legs are tired. So you're going to hurt yourself on your back. Same thing, we won't do a bunch of kettlebell swings or like lots of light hang power snatches before deadlifting really heavy the next day. Right. That's the only really big rule I follow is I don't do like what I consider like an accessory movement the day before doing a heavy lift. Unless like it's like very specifically planned that way. Like I have rules, and if I notice myself breaking a rule of my like internal programming rules, I have to know why I'm doing it. Okay. So near the open, maybe we'll do that with lifting because the open tends to do like a lift when you're tired now. So maybe we'll spend a couple days getting tired, and it'll make you lift tired. The rockBRKR stuff, which I've noticed that once we've reopened, people aren't doing as much of, which is fine. So Candace is doing it a lot. But like I'll have her do a lot of stuff tired right now. Yeah. Because she isn't used to that. That's like what she needs to do for her next step if she wants to like progress is to learn how to do some stuff tired. But in general, the goal of the program is to teach people how to do stuff better. When you're tired, it's harder to learn. Yeah. So everything's set up around giving people the biggest chance to succeed in terms of learning, which is why yesterday was like a lower skill day. It was running in toes to bar, and the toes to bar is supposed to be scaled for most people. Today was a hard snatch day. So yesterday was like you come in, you run, you're not overloading your brain with information. Today was a technical day. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yep.
Yeah. So even though I know like for most people this won't change how they approach workouts, and this won't,
people like I think maybe by me just talking about it. And the other thing is people need to believe in the program they're doing.
Exactly.
And by me having all of this, I know that people are more likely to believe in it because I think at least it should appear that I know what I'm doing.
For sure.
I would just like people to see the results and know and believe in it.
Yeah.
Which is like, interestingly, how CrossFit started. Like no one questioned it. Like the original CrossFitters just did the freaking main site workouts and just got really fit.
Yeah.
And no one needed to know what the programming was. And then people asked Greg Glassman about programming because he used to do all the level ones and he didn't have a programming lecture.
Yeah.
Because to him it was super easy.
Yeah.
Because you just like, you make couplets and triplets, you vary the length, and you just like always like do a different thing the next day.
Yeah.
And then you just track everything. And you have certain workouts you repeat and then you get fitter. And that's all it is. Mm-hmm. Those rules I talked about exist so it's easier for me to write the workouts. Mm-hmm. Like having some rules to stick to and having a template to stick to only exists so I don't, like when I get stuck, I can like go to these rules so I don't have an issue.
Yeah.
But like Rich Froning literally goes into his gym. He has a giant whiteboard. He goes into his gym, looks at what him and his friend, like his training partners have done, writes a workout up, asks anyone how they feel about it, asks who's sore, asks what people need to work on, and then they change the workout, and then he just has final say on the workout. Okay. His training program is based off that. The Mayhem Athlete Training Program. He sent the most individual competitors to the games. He also sent the most teens and the most masters athletes.
Okay.
And that's his trick. Like that, there's no like secret. Like they'll do a strength, like his competitive athletes do a strength cycle. Like the people not doing his class programming, they do a strength cycle. But like rockBRKR has strength cycles into it. But like the majority of their training is just that 3 days on, seeing what people need to work on. And so that's what I do. I look at what people need to work on. 3 days, I write the next day. And I have stuff that makes it easier. And I've done all of it. I've done like set progression. I've done it personally myself, and I've written programming for 10 years now. I've done all of it. Even for like the competitive athletes I train, it works way better if I kind of like talk to them and see how they're feeling and then give them workouts versus being like, here's a week of workouts. Because what tends to happen is if something goes off and you have given them like 4 weeks of workouts and you can't address it, it messes it up.
Sure.
The biggest example of that is like squat cycles. I've tried to do squat cycles. I've done one successfully in my entire life, and I got way stronger, but I had nothing else in my life at the time. I was a grad student. I've given people specific squat cycles to do with like 12 weeks of percentages, and it never goes super well. Like I don't think Phil ever 100% completed a squat cycle, even when he was competitive. Yeah, he'd get tweaked, or because like you're doing CrossFit, your stomach's gonna tweak, you're gonna have an off day, you're gonna not feel good. For 12 weeks is a long time to commit to it, unless you're like an Olympic athlete at a training center or at this point a professional CrossFitter.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah. So I think both are true. I think people from hearing about it, I think there's going to be more buy-in, right? And just knowing that it is strategic. But I also think that you hear people say all the time here that they notice that the programming seems to be very good.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't know why, but like.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the times, I know like, I don't want to like throw shade at people, but a lot of times when you have a community that complains about programming, like I don't want to be rude, but like no one here knows enough about programming to complain about it.
Right.
Like, it's like, oh man, we're not snatching enough. It's like, maybe we're not snatching enough. I don't hear any complaints about the programming. I want to caveat that as like, I don't hear it. Maybe it occurs, but I hope if it does occur, someone freaking tells me about it so I can address it.
Yeah.
I asked Brandon if he hears anything because he coaches the most, and he says that people complain it's hard.
Yeah.
But that's like, I'm like, yeah, you complain it's hard. That's not a big deal.
Right.
Like, I don't care about that. It's supposed to be hard. That's how you get better.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's gonna be hard. That's why it works. But like at other places, or I've heard, and I used to sell programming to gyms, and they would complain about it, and I'm like, well, I don't have any complaints here. And I look at your sugar WOD and our sugar WOD, and our members are way fitter than your members, like not like the top 5, but like as a group. Sure. Or like I look at someone, like I go back and be like, 6 months when you started, that member was here, and now they're here. I look at a member who started with me 6 months ago, and they're like much further along, and it's like, so people like to complain about it when they need to complain about something and they don't know what to complain about. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think so.
And so when it happens at other facilities, in my experience, and again, hopefully no one who gets offended watches this, it's an issue with the staffing, the ownership, or the coaching, not the programming itself. Right. And that's why if someone has an issue with the programming, it's probably an issue with our coaching or our issue with my leadership or something like that. Like it's probably not the programming because you'll get fit doing anything.
Got it.
Right. So if you do have a problem with the programming, ask what the issue is, and then we can address it.
Makes sense. Okay, so that talks about like long-term, bigger picture programming. The next question asks how the WOD specifically, so how each workout is maybe designed, if there are equations or logic that you follow.
I guess I talked a little bit about it. I have like if we squat the one day, expect to see lunges the next day.
Okay.
There's on the YouTube channel. I did like a 10-minute breakdown of 3 days of programming, which I think will help a lot of you guys who have those questions. So Breaker Strength on YouTube, you can check it out. I break down 3 days of programming and talk about this with a little more elegance because I practice right now.
Okay.
But there's no like equation. One thing I do, not for the gym, but again, when I'm training with someone one-on-one, is I track how much total weight they're lifting throughout a week or throughout a month. Mm-hmm. And that's something you guys can, I think it's really important when it comes to scaling workouts. And I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Like say the workout's 100 pounds and it's like 3 reps and it's an AMRAP. And it's only really important in AMRAPs, but say it's 100 pounds, it's 3 reps and there's something else, but you want to scale the weight and you scale the weight to like 50 pounds and you end up doing like 15 rounds of this 10-minute AMRAP. But my intention is for someone to get 5 rounds at 100 pounds. If you'd gone heavier, you would have done less weight.
Right.
So the one thing to be aware of, and the one thing I am slightly aware of, is how much weight someone is lifting relative to their abilities throughout a period of time.
Okay.
And now most of the time, the workouts are 4 times. So it's like if people overscale, they're doing less work. And Like that's unfortunate, but I just care about people doing too much. So the overuse injuries tend to occur when people do like 50 pounds when they should be doing 80 pounds and end up doing like a million extra reps. Because the total amount, if you do 50 times like 12, it's way more than like 100 times 3 or whatever it was supposed to be.
Right.
I just use big examples because I am not that good at math. But like you have to look at like not like how much weight's on the bar, but how many times you're lifting that bar.
Yeah. So if you're doing a workout for time and you're scaling, you should be finishing around the same time as someone who is not scaling.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
if you're finishing faster, you're overscaling.
Yeah.
And that's going to impede your performance. Like I said, sorry, not your performance. You perform good, you were fast. Yeah. It's going to impede your progress, but it's not injurious. If we have time caps because of COVID, if we didn't have time caps, I'd be a little more careful with people's loading. But the big thing is with AMRAPs, if you get like way more rounds than someone else, you probably lifted too much weight.
Right.
Because it's lighter, but you did more total reps.
Yeah.
Outside of like 1 rep max snatches at the CrossFit Games, I very rarely see injuries from 1 rep. Like I've seen 1 dislocated elbow with a training partner, and I've seen 1 torn bicep with a different training partner. Oof. But they weren't being coached. We were just lifting together. But I've never like that causes like that's more likely to cause an injury. High rep is going to like tweak your back than a single.
Right.
Like and where it happens is like the last rep of a workout is where people get hurt, like a high rep workout.
Right. Yeah. So this actually isn't, this isn't where I saw this question going, but I feel like that's a great thing to touch on is scaling properly, right? So I've said before in class, like the goal here isn't to be the sickest scaled athlete, like to have a crazy time. That's half the time of like Phil doing RX.
No. Yeah, that's a good point. When you scale, if you're beating the fastest RX time in the gym, you're probably overscaled. Yeah. If you're way below the fastest RX time in the gym, or my time, if I'm doing the workout RX, like I'm in the middle. If you're like you're underscaling. Yeah. But like a lot of the times when it comes to a lot of these workouts, you can't overscale. Yeah. But you can't if you're like worried about overscaling and you aren't beating the fastest times in the gym, you're not overscaling. That's a big thing. People are like, oh, that's too easy. It's like, man, go faster. Yeah. Right. But if you constantly are the fastest time overall and you're scaled, you need to increase the difficulty or increase the weight or something like that. Slowly, don't do anything crazy. Yeah. Just be careful with it. But if you are the fastest scaled athlete, if you're consistently on top of the scaled leaderboard, you should probably increase your weight a little bit. And if you are, you can reach out to myself or Brandon and we'll help you with that as well. We'll be like, yo, you need to make this a little bit harder. Yeah. Or just ask us in class what you should do. And if you look at SugarWOD, I don't know if people, maybe I should make a little video on how to do all this stuff. If you look on SugarWOD and you click the prepare or notes, I can't remember what it is, on the workout, it'll tell you what the stimulus is for the day. It'll give you time domain and all of that. Yep. Sometimes the time domains are a bit off because on some workouts, it's really hard to predict time domain. Especially like there was one we were way off, but the gym was super hot that day. Yeah. So like the heat definitely like threw people off a little bit. Yeah. So that, but there's time domains and all that. Got it. But yeah, I always tell people to use the top scores in the gym RX as their scaled scores. Got it. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good one to cover. Yeah. Cool. All right. So moving on to the next question. This person asks about pacing when we do stuff before a workout. So when we have a short Metcon and we want to get fired up and then we come down and then we actually do the real workout. Yeah. So I think what this person is asking is like, how the concern is that I'm burning out, either muscle wise or maybe cardiovascular wise before I go for this like workout for real. So short workouts need long warm-ups. Long warm-ups need short workouts. If the workout is 8 minutes or less, you need to feel like you're dying before you start the workout. And if you don't, you're probably going to like hit what I call the fight or flight. And it's not like a technical term, but people overuse it. But once your heart rate spikes, if the first time your heart rate spikes is in a short workout, and it should spike right away. Like on like Fran, for instance, 21:59, 2 minute long workout, your heart rate should spike during your 21 thrusters. Like it should spike already. The first time that happens, you'll probably like want to take a break. If it hasn't spiked before, you'll take a break and you'll rest too long. So same thing with like lactic acid in your legs. you want to have that like already kind of like, you want to be used to that burning heavy leg feeling and then hit the workout. The goal of a long warm up before a short workout is to make it feel like you're starting halfway through Cindy. That's what I always tell people, right? So Cindy's a 20-minute workout that you need to pace super well. You should feel like you're on round like 10 or 11 of Cindy when you start like Fran. Right. And even maybe at the end of like even around like the last 5 minutes. A good analogy is where like people really pick up in the last 2 minutes and go hard, like on a long workout, where like 2 minutes to go, and maybe you try and get like an extra round in where you've been doing like a round every 3 minutes, you do a round in 2 minutes. That should be how you do a short workout, 8 minutes or less. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So if there are people who are doing these preppers, these primers, and they're like, I'm done. Like, should they have gone lighter? Should they have taken it a little more easy?
Maybe. There's like different things for that. One, it depends where you are as an athlete.
Yeah.
If you're regularly an RX athlete and that's something that happened to you, yeah, you probably went too heavy or too light. If you're not an RX athlete, you might just lack the capacity required of that 2 minute, like 8 minute window. And then it's a good thing. Like you got more fit. Like it's a good way to make a workout that you probably wouldn't get as much out of harder. Because those shorter workouts, you have to have like a mental mindset that a lot of people haven't developed yet when they first start CrossFit, and the capacity to do that really fast. Like a lot of people think, oh, when's CrossFit going to get easier? CrossFit gets way harder. Like it gets so much harder when you get fit.
Yeah.
And I think that like if you are tired in those early workouts, like you probably don't know necessarily. I don't know who this person is, so I'm not getting after anyone. But what I've seen is you probably don't know what true intensity is yet, and you might not be capable of it.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to Brandon about the 8 minute long workout we did recently, and we both like were sick afterwards.
Yeah.
Right. And like if you've never made yourself sick from a workout, like you don't actually have to throw up, but like shit your pants sick or throw like you feel like you need to go lay down for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
You haven't found that intensity. And like a lot of people, and like you won't know it until you've experienced it. And when you experience it for the first time, it's crazy, but it takes a lot to get there. And it's kind of like the best tool for it is the assault bike, not the echo bike, but both our assault bikes are broken because they're like not good pieces of equipment. The echo bike's a little too hard to get going to really experience that, but the assault bike was great for that because anyone could hammer it and blow their legs out. And the first time we got the assault bike a long time ago was the first time I saw people experience that. Not luckily, unfortunately, I think they're both broken now, but
yeah.
So maybe we'll get the sled out, but it's really hard to experience that because it requires a level of muscular endurance that you have, like people need to train for, and lung capacity that people need to train for, and then mental capacity that you need to get accustomed to. So I guess the long-winded answer is that the short version is short workouts have long warm-ups because you should feel like you're dying to start it, so you don't spike your heart rate and feel like you're going to throw up. Like you should already have experienced that before you start, so you know what's going to hit you. Long workouts have short warm-ups because you should warm up into it, so you stay the same goal. And if you feel like you're dying during like the warm-up of a short workout, you're either going way too hard if you're an RX athlete or near RX athlete, like so if you're intermediate, or it's probably a good thing and you're getting like you're building up that kind of base level of conditioning we talked about.
Awesome.
Does that make sense?
I think that's very helpful.
Okay.
All right, next question is, what is the point of workouts that even Breaker's strongest athletes can't finish? AKA that wall walk thruster workout, this person says.
Games athletes didn't finish that. Like that's a weird example. I wouldn't use that one because games athletes didn't finish that workout. Phil gave me his score and it was like he had 2 reps left. Mm-hmm. And then I looked it up on the games website and there was like, I think 4 or 5 dudes who did worse than him. The purpose is like we program for our best athletes. For the most part, we get it. This week is a little bit different because we're taking games workouts, and this is more like a fun. It's supposed to be fun. Like you're supposed to like see that. Oh, well, I'm nowhere near as fit as I thought I was. I got wrecked by that thruster wall walk workout. I think that's the worst. That's the worst performance I've had in a really long time on a workout. Super humbling. But I program for like literally the best athletes at the gym and all of the gyms or athletes I program for. So that means that like. Most people have to scale. I should have scaled. I scaled the crap out of that workout and still I should have done like the 65 plus version, which was like 9752 wall walks. And I might have finished. I don't know what happened there. But we program for the best because this is something I'm passionate about because a lot of gyms have gotten away from it But what really drew me into CrossFit when I started, and the gym I was at followed what's called main site, which was like hard workouts program at CrossFit.com, is because like RXing a workout should be an accomplishment. And not like, oh, I RX 50 burpees for time, but like RXing like a weight that's hard or something, a movement that's hard. That should be an accomplishment that theoretically takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Right? If you do it right away, or it's given to you, or it's dumbed down to you, it's like, great, you get that dopamine hit right away, but it's not long lasting. I believe in like having it set up so people have to work for it. And I always want to make it so people are consistently trying to get better, including our best athletes. Like, I know that like there's gyms where there's a lot of really good athletes who go to the games, but they don't do any of the class workouts. And what I've learned, especially because we've had and we still have like some good athletes in our classes, it's really like good to see that because you know our program is effective. Like if Phil is getting better, and he used to be super competitive, and he's still pretty competitive, but he has a job now and whatnot. If he's still getting fitter, like he was fitter on that workout than some of the games athletes, which is really impressive. And he just does the class workouts, and he wouldn't have been able to do that a couple of years ago. Right. And if I made the workouts too easy, he at this point in his life, his fitness would stagnate, right?
Yeah.
So it's again the rising tide rises all ships, or whatever the frig I said earlier. We should all be rising with him instead of bringing like him and the Terrences and whatnot down to our level, right? Yeah. And I want to get better so I can maybe keep up with him. And that goes back to who our gym attracts. Not everyone is going to be okay with that. And the big thing I found when I was giving or selling programming to other gyms is that their members had huge issues with that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't help you with that. I'm not going to it's not my fault knowing that your gym can squat snatch 225. We're going to do a workout that's like 5-to-1 strict muscle up and squat snatch because we have people like, actually, I think that was the first time I wrote a workout that no one could RX. That was the first workout. I was like, oh, that should have been 205.
Yeah.
Because I thought Phil didn't do it. I thought Brad would be able to accomplish it, and he didn't. That was the first workout. I was like, that was a little too heavy. But most of the time, when I write the workouts, they're fine. I would have never written these games workouts for our gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I would have made them all easier.
Yeah.
Like it would have been like 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 1 of wall walks and thrusters. The power snatch echo bike one would have been, that one was actually fine. And I feel confident saying that. But like we had some people finish under the time cap. The games time cap was 8 minutes, which I thought was like big for the games.
Yeah.
Phil said he's going to do it tonight. No one beat a games athlete.
Okay.
I was on pace. I was like killing it. And then the round of 15 snatches hit way different. And then yesterday's workout, the total bar one, that should have just been, I think a lot of people would have had a good workout with this, but that was just that was running with a break from running. That was just like the long run. I never get to program. I found a way to sneak it in. Right. Totally. And then today is a snap. We didn't do today. I changed today from the games because the games workout was like ladies start at 160, guys start at 260.
Yeah.
So I changed. Like I didn't program that workout. I changed it.
Makes sense.
Right. And I programmed the tiebreaker, but like that was just for fun. Like I initially put the day in without the tiebreaker, but I was like, I kind of want to have like the tiebreaker just to because I wanted, and it happened. I think it happened to you. I wanted to see a bunch of people miss their first lifts.
Yep.
Right.
It happened to a lot of people.
Yeah, it happened to a lot of people. Right. So and that's the only reason I put that in is because at the games people missed that first lift. Yeah. I thought it was hilarious. Like it was fun.
Yeah.
I think stuff like that's kind of fun. That's the only reason I put it in. But the majority of our workouts, unless I make a huge mistake, which has happened, I'm not infallible, are programmed for the best like top 5 to 10% of athletes. And then everyone else is expected to scale, including myself. Because it theoretically makes us all better. And I think gyms make a mistake by making their programming too accessible. Yeah. And then people like start RXing it and then it stagnates and there's no like reason to get better. And what's really neat is the gym as a whole has exceeded my expectations. So like I was like the ultimate skill for us is a strict ring muscle up. Like there's weights, but weights are like more like finicky, but like a body weight, strict ring muscle up. We have like a bunch of people who can do that. But I was like a strict bar muscle up is great if people get it. Never something I'll program for.
Yeah.
But then we had a bunch of people come back from the pandemic without having, and just were able to do it. Yeah. Because they got way better at the L-sits and the SLIPs, and they did a lot of tempo rows and stuff where they were just forced to move slow and good. And I was like, oh man, now this is something, we did it.
Yeah.
Right? So like, I don't like putting limitations on people, and I don't like putting limitations on the community. And I think programming is the one thing you can do is limit your community by like making it too easy. And I believe everyone can get like really fit. So
yeah,
that's why. But this week is different. Like games workouts are different than regionals. Like regionals workouts, we can like tackle as a community.
Yeah.
But I was just excited for the CrossFit games to be back.
Yeah.
Like I said, I changed the programming because I was like, oh man, this is like, because it's the first year in 2 years it's been normal. Yeah. Because there was that 1 year Greg Glassman went crazy and invited everyone. So they had massive cuts in 2019. Oh, yeah. 2020 had like just 5 people actually doing the games,
right?
Which I thought was a really good viewing experience. But like the 2020, like the final workouts for those 5 people at 2020 games, that was the hardest. Like I don't think they'll ever, unless there's another 5 people only, I don't think they'll ever make games that hard again. That was easily like, that was insane.
Yeah.
That was insanely hard. We didn't do any of those workouts because we were locked down, but also because like none of those were doable.
So this leads really well into the next question, which you've already kind of started on, is, no, it's going to be a two-parter.
Yeah, we'll just go. We'll see how long it is.
Tell us your real thoughts on Castro's programming, open games, teams, everything.
I don't know. A lot of people have opinions. I don't know. I don't spend a ton of time on the internet, but people seem to really like to have opinions on games programming, but like it's all been good. Yeah. I'll say that my only opinion, and it's like I've listened to a couple podcasts about it, I thought the Granite Games was missing a long event. So the Granite Games was a semifinal like Dave Castro didn't program. For the, there was a semifinal to qualify for the games, and they didn't have a long event. And the announcer or the person who programmed it was on a podcast, and he said it was because of the heat. He also said that one of their events was like a back-to-back that was kind of like a long event. But I felt that that event especially was like a little repetitive in the programming. Like it was testing a certain athlete. And then it, like Christy Aramo was cut from that, and she had to qualify through the last chance qualifier, which she like won, I think. And I even said when she didn't qualify, I'm like, she's gonna qualify. And I thought she was gonna get top 5 at the games, and she was close. But she qualified and was top 10 at the games. So like I would say like that caveat would be the Granite Games. But in general, the CrossFit programming is good. The issue people have with CrossFit programming is, again, no one's perfect. They make mistakes. They won't ever talk about their mistakes. They'll fix them though. I actually listened to a podcast and Dave Castro talked about one of the things he messed up. Like a long time ago, they had a softball throw. I don't know if you were into CrossFit there.
I don't remember that.
It was like in 2012 or 2013. They threw a softball and like they had people from Europe who had never thrown a baseball before, and it was not good. Oh, no. And Dave Castro's talked about that being a mistake. But they have addressed that. But I thought the programming this year was great. There was like some caveats. The yoke thing where people finished it really fast, but I saw a snippet where he was like talking about it post games, and he's like, people weren't supposed to finish it that fast. And the issue with that event was, because the yoke started next to the people they were able to grab it and run. And so if you finished in you got near the end, it was like really close, but you had to go all the way back down and run back down there for your next interval.
Right.
So that's why the people who didn't get it near the end were punished a little bit more in terms of the workout being long. That was the only thing I noticed. I know some people didn't like the back-to-back snatch run, but I loved it because it was 2 completely different events using the same movements. Because it was clean run. Yeah. Because the clean was light and the run was longer, and then the run was short and the clean was heavy. So it's 2 completely different events. Yeah. And so I thought that was actually a neat juxtaposition that people, again, are criticizing it when they're not necessarily as, they don't understand how that's 2 different.
Right.
That's 2 completely different, tests. Right. And so that's why it was neat. So I thought that was the neat event. But I thought the programming this year was really good. I will say that from what I've heard, the swimming in the lake should maybe, because people get sick from it. Ugh. Yeah. So that's the only thing I've heard is that sometimes people, and a couple people were sick at the games and potentially from the lake. And Josh Bridges, who's a former games competitor who competed at Madison 1 year, said he thought the lake made him sick too. And it was close 2 weeks before the game started for swimming.
Gross.
Yeah. So that my criticism, if there was a criticism, would be using the lake. Okay. I like the events a lot this year. Awesome. Some people are gonna not like the freestanding handstand, and I understand why. People are bouncing off their necks.
Yeah.
That's a movement that if it comes up again, people are not going to be they're going to be touch and go. They're going to be way better. They won't be bouncing off their necks. Mm-hmm. I think it's something that's in CrossFit. I thought it's a really hard move to standardize, and they did their best. I don't know. That's the only gray area for me. But I thought the men's between Justin was really fun to watch, outside of the obvious neck issue.
Yeah.
And then I know some people are oh, that's not an accessible movement. We didn't do that one. That wasn't one I picked to do.
That's amazing.
Right? Because I read somewhere where someone was like, I don't want people are going to try this. I was like, I've watched people try and do that movement who are very fit, and not even come close. Ugh. Like, it's not an issue. No one, it's not something I'm worried about. People coming in like, man, I really want to do a freestanding handstand. I'm going to get it, and then bouncing off their head a whole bunch.
Yeah.
I don't see it happening.
Okay.
But I'll tell Austin he can't do it, and you'll see. Because he says he can do anything in CrossFit.
Really?
Yeah. He said he can do any movement in CrossFit. That's what he said.
That's exciting. I'm excited for him to come back.
Yeah, and try it.
Oh, God. Awesome. So this is going to be the last question in the programming subcategory, and I think it's going to be a fast one. What differences, if any, do you see between CrossFit and functional fitness?
Functional fitness just doesn't want to pay the affiliate fee.
So it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I will say this. What CrossFit existed before CrossFit. There's a guy named Dan John who's a strength coach who has I think it was a book or a blog post. It came out either with CrossFit or concurrent to CrossFit, but I definitely guarantee he developed it before he knew what CrossFit was. Where he paired front squats and running together. And I was like, if you want to get messed up, do this front squat, do this run. He had rest in it, but it was very much a CrossFit workout. What CrossFit did that's unique is scored those workouts to make people compete against each other. So, and Greg Glassman said, men will die for points. This is a famous Greg Glassman point. And that's where at least originally, where a lot of the potency of it came in. You weren't working out anymore. He gamified fitness. And if you were like, that's a big thing people try and do now. They gamify everything. We want to gamify this, gamify that, because they can monetize it. He wasn't necessarily trying to monetize it, but he gamified fitness, and that's what made it potent.
Yeah.
And so CrossFit is just the gamification of functional fitness. And functional fitness is just something that people created because they wanted to do CrossFit without calling it CrossFit. But both of these things existed beforehand. What made CrossFit super useful is putting those together, but also I think the inclusion of the low-level gymnastics skills. Which another thing, like people have gotten, gyms have gotten away from is that aspect of it because people hate losing. And instead of like dealing with developing an athlete's mindset in their facility, they just get rid of the RX and they get rid of the leaderboard.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, if I ever like sold my gym and went to a gym that didn't have an RX or a leaderboard, I would like call that owner a bad word to his face and walk out. And again, that's just laziness. Like they're too lazy. And this is, I guess, the soapbox. But they're too lazy to deal with how hard it is to create a culture that can be both supportive and competitive.
Yeah.
Because the hardest thing here is like keeping people competitive and engaged, but also like making them feel like they're improving. And like, if I wanted to be lazy, I'd just be like, do whatever weight you want that makes you feel good about yourself.
Right.
Right.
So a lot of gyms right now will do an RX and like a fitness category.
Yeah, or they'll have RX plus fitness scaled. And then I was going to make like a standalone podcast about this because I was really fired up about it and I never did. A lot of the gyms have like levels.
Yeah.
But I talked to Joanne about it and she was like, man, if we had that, I would never, because she would just pick the level and stuck with it.
Yeah.
And I don't like putting people in the boxes like that, but I understand why it makes coaching way easier. Sure. Like if everyone comes in and knows what level of workout they're doing, it's gonna be way easier for the coach. Yep. But I'd way rather have myself and my staff be able to like personalize each workout to each individual. It's more work for us and it's more work for the athletes because you can't just be like, I'm level 2. I'm always gonna be level 2. But what's really important is that I think, in my opinion, it provides more chance for progress.
Yeah.
Right? And more nuance to each workout. Also like, there's no excuses, right? It's like, I can't do that movement. You can't do that movement because you can't do that movement.
Right.
You can't do that movement because you're not good at that movement. You can't do that movement because you didn't practice that movement, but I'm still going to program that movement and make you try and do it.
Yeah.
And I guess this comes up like with muscle ups is a big thing. Some gyms don't program muscle ups anymore. Okay. I was like, man, program a muscle up, program strict muscle ups. People will get that, but the art of getting that is where you get fit. You don't get fit from doing muscle ups. Right. You get fit from learning how to do muscle ups.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. I mean, I watched Sarah today snatch with 25s on her snatch bar. Like, 90, 85, 90 pounds?
She snatched, 85 pounds.
Like basically her body weight?
Yeah, but she would have, like, she's definitely, I don't want to pick on Sarah, but she's definitely the type of person who if you didn't push her to do that, she never would have.
Yeah, I like to think she like probably surprised herself today.
She definitely did.
Because we don't have a fitness or scaled category.
Yeah, exactly. And then, exactly. And so that's something that I know the staff is luckily bought into, which is really important to me, because if they didn't, it'd be a mess. But I also understand, we didn't really talk about my motivation for running a gym, but I don't do this for financial gain.
That is an upcoming question.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't do this for financial gain. I understand that if you putting levels, having staff that's less well trained, and you're still going to get people fit, you're still going to have like a good time, and you're still going to do CrossFit. It's just way easier for the staff.
Yeah.
I just don't find it rewarding because I like making people do things they don't think they can do.
Yeah.
Like that's my motivation. Like I can't make them, but I like making people do shit they can't do, and then watching them. And because like I think it's important that everyone has someone in their life who makes them believe that they're in themselves.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And this is a space where you can do that. This is a space where I can make people believe in themselves. And doing this stuff that like, oh man, like they don't think they can is like really empowering.
Yep.
Maybe it isn't. Maybe Sarah's going to go about her day and have like, I hope that theoretically she feels a little bit more confident in herself.
And I'm just going to go back to the mission that we started with that says help clients define and attack their limitations with knowledge, compassion.
Yeah, exactly.
So
100%. And that's why, because that person, to go back to the story, didn't think they could do the monkey bars.
Yeah.
Right. I want people to do things they don't think they can do. And I think that if you have levels, the levels don't fit into my mission and vision.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
But I understand if your mission and vision is like, there's no profit in that. Like there's no like in my mission and vision, and there's no like I like to believe in the way I conduct myself. There's nothing that says I'm here to
make money.
Yeah, and I don't fault people who do that, and I'm not a martyr. Like I have a house in the GT. I'm not like I don't want people to think like I'm some pauper, but I know that in the past I've chosen to leave money on the table because it doesn't fit my mission and vision, and I believe that long term I'll be successful. Also, money doesn't define success. The first time I had money, I bought everything I'd ever wanted, a big TV and a home gym, and I wasn't any happier than before I had that. Yeah. I wasn't happy before it, and I wasn't happy after it.
Yeah.
I realized that I didn't fix my problem. Money didn't solve my problem. It helps, like being like feeling like safe, but it doesn't.
Yeah, to a point, right? And then more on top of that doesn't necessarily add to happiness. Awesome. So that, I think, really nicely summarizes all our performance questions. And then I think unless you want to
No, we can keep going.
I think the other two will take much less time.
Okay.
But I think this next question, and now we're kind of delving into specific training or athlete development questions. This fits nicely into what we were just talking about. How do you conquer the fear of dropping under the bar during snatches or jerks?
Oh man, that happened today. People, who was it? Someone said you have to like just do it. Like it sucks. That's one of the things I noticed today that I want to like maybe not right away, but build into is just doing some drills for that. But like, and I think this is something in the past I've almost been too like and this is something I've tried to correct is I've created a culture of too much care. Like not in but like people were too cautious.
Yeah.
Right. And I noticed that like there'd be people who were like fitter than our average member who were like reckless. I was like, they're gonna get hurt. But there's a middle ground, and I think there was a long period of time where I was too close to the like cautious, and I might have like been responsible for that in some people.
Okay.
Right. So now I'm trying to do a better job of getting people to be more confident by not coaching as much. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I think I was like, I coach too much, and then people and some of our longer term members are still like directly impacted negatively by my overcoaching. Does that make sense?
So almost like so focused on moving perfectly that they won't take any risks.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just not going for it.
Yeah.
And I've changed my approach to coaching substantially, I think. I don't know if you guys have noticed it. Mm-hmm. Where I am now, especially with people who have less weight on their bar, encouraging them to just go for it. Just jump. And I think that was something that I was like, man, our athletes are good, but they're not, I don't think they always like, we don't have these big max lifts. People are like very cautious. I was like, oh, it's because I've encouraged this, which is good. I think it's good. It's a good base.
Yeah.
But I overcoached a lot. So people were overthinking lifts.
Right.
I was like, man, it's not that simple. It's not that hard. Why am I making it hard?
Right.
I don't need to make it hard. And I said this morning. I did that because when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing. Right? I didn't know how to coach 10 years ago. Frig no. And even like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I don't think I knew how to coach until like maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like you don't go to school for it. There's no school on how to coach weightlifting. There's very few places where you can learn how to do it. So like, and then like you'd learn by interning somewhere, but there's like 4 places in Canada where you can learn under good weightlifting coaches. And then you're just doing weightlifting. So when I started, there was like, it was the blind leading the blind essentially, right? Nobody knew what they were doing. I was at a CrossFit gym and everyone was doing their best. I'm not like trying to undersell it, but like there were none of us had like a weightlifting background or anything. So you just get like really kind of not nervous, but you just try and get everything in there and you're enthusiastic and you think it's so technical. And I've learned now that it's not. You just jump the bar overhead. Right. That's all it is. And anything else is lipstick on a pig. So
yeah,
that's the big thing. And so if you're fearful getting under the bar, if you're new here, or we'll work on that. If you've been here for a long time, I apologize. It's probably my fault. A little bit, right? And then also that's not something I can't empathize with that. Like the other thing to note is like I was not good at CrossFit when I started. I had to learn how to do everything. So that's why I think I'm a decent coach, because I had to actually learn how to do it versus like the Wayne Gretzky thing when he tried to coach hockey or Michael Jordan. You just put the ball in the net, stupid, right? You just win. Michael Jordan coaching. You just win. You don't question it.
Just do what I do.
You just do what I do. Why can't you do what I do? I was never like that. So, but the one thing is weightlifting, I've always been, especially in the snatch, I'm comfortable throwing myself under the bar. One thing I guess you could do, and we talked about today, is like if it's a snatch especially, just do a lot of overhead squats. Mm-hmm. Get really confident down there and then do some snatch balances, which I think we'll program coming up. And then just like realize that you're probably not going to get hurt.
That's a big one, right? It's like worst case scenario, you bail.
Yeah.
And the bar ends up in front of you every time.
Maybe or you drop it on your head and it hurts a little bit, but yeah. This is a big thing. I've seen very few injuries from a 1-rep max, if any. Like very few. Count on one hand. I've seen a ton of injuries from running. The most common injury I've seen in CrossFit is from running. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Calves, hamstrings, anything. And running and jumping.
Yeah.
2 things. Yeah.
One thing I was thinking about today, especially, and I thought about this too when we did the clean and jerk, and Clara specifically was talking about this was the first time she's ever actually had to get under the bar. Yeah. Like usually she powers and then does a squat.
Yeah.
And I was thinking today when I was pulling, as the snatches got heavier from the ground, the first pull, you think you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
It feels real heavy.
No, and that's when I know it's like everyone. That's why we talked earlier about doing the halting stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone felt that today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you kind of get in the mindset that like even though this sucks and it feels like there's no way I'm getting this overhead, you get it overhead.
Yeah. Like to be fair, you have a really good overhead position.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. But so you can get under the bar.
Right.
If you have, but that goes to what I said. You have a really good overhead position, so you can sneak under it.
Right.
If you don't have a solid overhead position, obviously you're going to be uncomfortable there.
Right.
But my 8:30 class, we talked about that. I'm like, weightlifting is 3 things: a good catch position, your stance and your grip, so feet in the right spot, hands in the right spot, and then confidence.
Yeah.
So, but if you don't have confidence in your overhead position, so that person maybe do some overhead squats, or you can get personal training if you really. And that's the last thing I said in my class. If you really want help with this, and you don't think you can do it on your own. We do offer personal training. If you email me, I can give you the link to Brandon's schedule, and he has a book, and you can just book. He's a digital book. You just book in with him and he'll help you out. If you want it with me, you can email me. I charge way more than Brandon does, and I'm a lot less nice about it. I'm honest. Like I train. If you personal train with me, you're gonna be trained like someone who knows all the lifts. You have to know what all the lifts are.
Yeah.
You're doing PT with me. I'm not gonna sit there and tell you what a tall snatch is. I'm not gonna I'll show you once.
Yeah.
If you've never done it before. But you're doing PT with me, I'm treating you like an athlete, like a competitive athlete.
Right.
That's just something I've decided.
Yeah. Okay.
If you guys have noticed over the last couple of weeks, if you're in the gym, I'll probably come bug you for an hour while you're in class trying to help you. There's a difference. But if you're booking time with me, it's going to cost more money and I'm going to be a dick about it.
Right.
Book with Brandon.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But I'll probably try and teach you this in class, over enthusiastically. When Brandon's coaching.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I feel like maybe the amount of attention people get from you, it correlates to the amount of their focus.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. So it's a good thing if you're maybe getting picked on in the right way.
Yeah.
Not picked on, but
if someone's if I tell someone and the big thing is stance and width. If I repeatedly have to tell you your stance and width of where to grab the bar and where to put your feet, I'll tell you that as many times as I need to. But until you're regularly doing that, I'm not going to add more onto it. Yeah. And then, because for weightlifting, which is I guess because we weightlifting today, what we're talking about, there's a few basic things that you shouldn't ever mess up. Where your feet go, where your hands go, and where your eyes go. I mean, I look at the floor all the time when I weightlift, and someone stay at me. But when I don't look at the floor, my lifts feel way better. Especially because we usually do a long warm up. If you're doing those 3 things, and I'll coach you more. If you're not doing those 3 things, and I've told you twice for that day, or if I tell you every day, I'm just gonna like make sure you're safe. Yeah. But I'm not gonna, because like you're obviously, for whatever reason, you're not remembering that. I don't think it's a hard thing. I'm not trying to pick on anyone. So you probably have something else going on that's taking your attention away from the gym.
Right.
So I'm not gonna try and overload you.
Yeah.
Right. Like if your stance and your grip aren't good, and Brandon and I've talked about it. We're like trying to make a big show of reminding everyone during the warm up what the stance and the grip are. Yeah. Okay. But if you guys in the warm up, you don't get the stance and the grip right after we show you what it is, we're also going to realize that maybe something's going on outside of the gym. Your focus isn't here. So we're not going to continue to coach you.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And then the other thing is like, after the warm up, there isn't going back to what I said earlier, like with weightlifting, there isn't a ton to say. Like I try and give everyone one thing to work on if they need it. Like today at 8:30, I gave everyone except Tony one thing to work on because it was the best he's ever lifted. He'll admit that.
Nice.
He didn't lift the most weight ever, but it's the best he's ever lifted. And he said it's the best ever felt. I didn't give him anything to work on.
Oh.
He had a day. I'll give you guys one thing, and it might sound simple, but like you got to do that one thing a bunch of times before you get more things. And that goes back to what I said earlier about just self-evaluating how I coach. Mm-hmm. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. So I have a couple questions that I think are all related. So maybe I'll say them all, and then you can decide how you want to answer them. So the first question is, any plans in the near future to have open gym hours when people come in on their own time and work uncoached with the equipment? And then related to that is people or someone expressing the desire to practice on their own to advance things like strict pull-ups or double unders because they don't feel like they get really time to like dig into that during the WOD.
Okay.
So I feel like those are related, and then kind of related is what are accessory exercises I can do? This person specifically asked for pull-ups, but I feel like that could be, what should I do on my own?
Okay, so pull-ups are always an interesting one.
Yeah.
So we don't have open gym right now for a variety of reasons. One, pre-COVID, we didn't have open gym, so it's not something that's COVID, because I think that uncoached movement is not dangerous, but it can be detrimental. Mm-hmm. Like if you do something over and over again and it's wrong, and you get a little bit of success, you get that like dopamine hit from success, and you're like making small incremental progress, but you might not be making progress in the right direction. So uncoached movement can be like kind of detrimental overall.
Yeah.
And the big thing I see with pull-ups is the initiation of the pull-up. So when people do a bunch of pull-ups on their own, they do it wrong. Yep. And the best example of this is actually Phil, who still to this day doesn't necessarily engage his pull-ups 100% properly. And I don't think he'd mind me talking about it too much. I know he's going to listen. It definitely impacted his gymnastics negatively throughout his competitive career. Okay. And I take responsibility because I didn't know enough to understand that he was shrugging engaging his pull-ups, and his kip wasn't as lat dominant as it needed to be. And that so he learned and he got success, and he was really fit with like not a bad movement pattern, but not an optimal movement pattern.
Okay.
So if he had learned it correctly because he started CrossFit when he was 15, if he had learned it correctly when he was 15, he would have had not a lot, I don't want to like hypothesize, but he would have been better at some stuff when he was older, which may have translated into more success.
Okay.
So learning stuff unsupervised, especially now that I think we have a staff that knows a lot, is detrimental. Like you might feel like you're making progress or you need to practice, but it might be detrimental, especially when it comes to like anything that you struggle with. Mm-hmm. Double unders is something you can just practice anywhere though. You don't need an open gym to practice double unders. Yeah, practice double unders at home.
Practice double unders at home, guys.
Double unders are something you should practice. You're not going to, I think over the years, I've developed a way of coaching double unders and understanding the movement that actually has made a lot of progress with people. But at the end of the day, it's a rhythm thing and a conditioning thing. And those are two things you have to practice on your own. But pull-ups are something I've seen go poorly a lot.
Yeah.
Self pull-ups. Becky also has a poor initiation of pull-up, which has impeded her ability to do other gymnastics.
Big time.
Yeah. And so that's just something I've learned over the years is that, and we spend a lot of time in class. The other thing is overtraining training those things. So I talked about earlier, doing extra stuff on your own can be detrimental, even if you think it's progressing you. Again, I've been doing this now. I think over the last couple of years, I've finally gotten a lot more confident with it. I've been doing this long enough to know what works and what doesn't. And if you know how to do pull-ups, doing pull-ups every day is good. If you don't know how to do pull-ups, it can be bad.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to like know which is good and which is bad. But I also know that if you come 5 to 6 days a week, we do enough of everything that you should be progressing. And the people who come 5 to 6 days a week progress. So we've talked about having open gym in the future. But the other issue with that, like we talked about earlier, we hinted at the financial aspect of it. Like I'd have to either be here myself or pay someone to be here. And that's like an expense, right? It's $25 an hour to staff it minimum, because that's the minimum I'll pay. $20, I guess, is my minimum. The minimum I'll pay a coach is $20 an hour.
Okay.
And I'm not going to pay someone less just to hang out at the gym. Be like, your time's worth less money now. Right. So something that we have talked about in the future, because there is room for it, because I now provide some accessory stuff that I think some people will benefit from. Okay. So, and if people ask, I think the question was about accessory stuff.
Yeah.
So if you click, I don't have my phone. If you click where it says workout of the day on SugarWOD, there's other programs. If you look at where it says Chalk Talk on SugarWOD, it tells you what accessory work to do.
Okay.
And there's accessory work every day for people, except Thursdays, because it's the rest day. It's not a rest day, but it's a less intense day it's a rest day for Builder, and it's a less intense day for RockBRKR. And Sundays, because it's a day off for everything except the workout of the day program. But as for what people should be doing, I think 90% of our gym population should be just doing overhead squat therapy.
Okay.
Like all you guys need to do is take a PVC, stand against a wall. I post the overhead squat video every time there's overhead squats. Follow along, do it exactly how the video says. This is something I know any coach will help you with for free. Show you how to do it. If you don't want to know how to do it, just ask Brandon, Becky, myself, Genty, Brett. Who else coaches? Megan. Anyone will show you how to do overhead squat therapy. Okay, because it takes us 2 minutes. We'll make sure you're doing it right. Do it every day. That's the number one thing. Number two is going to be that, like, if you really want to get fit, I don't do it myself, but more running. Interestingly, RockBRKR is going to start. It's empty. It's going to start 3 days a week of running. And I'm going to put that option in every day for when you guys. It'll be Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. There's going to be running. So it's a 8-week running program starting on Tuesday. So if you guys want to get really fit, there's a running program you can do on your own. I will probably do 1 or 2 of the days with the gym as the workout of the day track, but in general, you can do that on your own anywhere. But more importantly, before you add more stuff, and this is a broken record, but I understand why, 8 hours of sleep, probably go through habitual nutrition, Becky's course. The biggest things you can do for the gym, the improvement, 8 hours of sleep, end of discussion, great nutrition, end of discussion. Those are the things that have helped the most people the most, is nailing those things. Adding more stuff on top of that, not necessarily great. When it comes to pull-ups, dialing in your nutrition is going to help you more with pull-ups than anything else, right? If your nutrition is already dialed in and you're struggling with pull-ups, it's a little bit different. And then once your nutrition is dialed in and you really want to do some extra stuff, and in the past, this is where I've seen a lot of help as well, is get some personal training. We have specific programs for pull-ups and we have specific programs for handstand push-ups. If those are 2 skills you want, Brandon can take you through them. And what's neat was with these programs, how it works is he'll show you how to do something and then you'll do it on your own. Okay. Yeah. And then he'll show you how to do it and you do it on your own. And the pull-up stuff you can do here because we have pull-up stuff outside. So after class, even though we can't really offer open gym right now, you can do pull-up stuff outside. We're going to leave the rigs up for the foreseeable future. So you can do extra pull-up stuff outside. Handstand stuff you can technically do outside too after class. So you can do your homework after class outside unless it's pouring rain. So if that's something you want, but again, it speaks to knowing how to do these things, right? Knowing how to initiate your pull-up and all of that stuff. But we have like open gym outside.
Yeah.
After every class. And there's some people who are using it. Yeah. Right? So if pull-ups are what you want to work on, there's pull-up rigs outside.
So would you be okay with someone who did not have PT? What if they didn't look good out there?
That's their problem. I don't you're on your own time. Like I used to really care about that stuff. Like it used to really drive me crazy. But now people are adults. Like I've said this, I'll tell people if people don't want to listen to me, like I'm still gonna I won't let them progress, but I'll still do my best to help them.
Sure. Cool.
Does that answer that question?
Yep, I think so. All right, so can we talk about differences in approaches to training for master's athlete, specifically at least 45 to 50 and maybe plus?
I think the big thing with master's athlete is what I talked about earlier. This is something I'm technically a master's athlete now, but I'm not like a 45 plus master's athlete yet.
Right.
The biggest thing I've noticed is that like the older you get, the more responsibility you have and the less time you have to dedicate towards recovery and diet and nutrition.
Yeah.
So I think the big thing I've seen is that those are less likely to be dialed in if you have kids or a job or a career or anything else going on.
Sure.
So the same rules kind of apply. And I've noticed it like in my own training when I was younger, like sub 30, and I was in grad school and wasn't really doing anything at the time. I could nap every day. I could do food prep for 2 hours every day. I could train twice a day if I wanted to. I could do all of these things. And I don't necessarily think that I've lost the ability to do anything. It's just that I don't do the stuff I used to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I'm sore, I look at my I've been at my computer for like writing a training cycle and right now it's just answering inquiries and being on the phone.
Right.
So I'm working a lot more, which is taking away from my ability to both do recovery, but I'm also like hunched over.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like, the first thing you want to look at is my lifestyle impeding my ability to recover? And be honest with yourself. Be like, is my diet great? Is my sleep great? And I think those are two things that are really harder as your master's age.
Right.
Until you're retired. 65 plus, that's my time to shine.
That's
So that's the first thing, is that those rules, and I think as you get older, you need to be more careful of those things as well, which is kind of the double-edged sword of it, which is what's super annoying, is that like the older I get, the more I personally feel I'm impacted by poor dietary choice.
Okay.
Right? So like I'm more like, I feel less good if I have like a night out versus when I was in my early 20s.
Yes.
Right? So like if you're drinking alcohol, and what's anything wrong with that, is probably just based on anecdotal evidence of Becky and I just now.
Yep.
It's probably more likely to impact your performance the next day.
Yeah.
But you're also more likely to have a single glass of wine at dinner, and that's okay. But even that one glass of wine, the way alcohol affects performance, is going to directly impact you.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, for master's athletes, a lot of it comes down to that.
Okay.
And the master's athletes who have been more in tune with that stuff have progressed faster than the ones that haven't. But I also understand that life happens. So like you have to be easy on yourself too.
Right.
The last thing I'm going to say is it's interesting. There's a mindset. I know now that I'm older, sometimes I catch myself thinking that I'm not going to be good at something. I'm not going to be able to do something as well as when I was younger because I'm old now. And I know I'm not that old. I'm 37, 36. I don't even know. I think I'm 36, 37 soon. I think I'm 36. I'm not even that old, but I still catch myself being like, oh, I'm not going to do this because I'm older.
Right.
But I've gotten better at a lot of things that you shouldn't be getting better at. Like I PR'd my snatch a couple weeks ago, and like that's something you shouldn't be able to do when you're experienced and older, but I was able to do it. Mm-hmm. So I catch myself doing that all the time. And again, I'm not special, so I assume other people do that. Like they give themselves an excuse. I'm not saying age doesn't impact you. It definitely impacts you.
Right.
But we've also saw with some of the masters athletes at the games, like they're still there's people in the 40 to 45 who are way fitter than I'll probably ever be.
Right.
Right. There's people in the 45 to 50 who are probably still way fitter than I'll ever be. So it's not like, I don't try not to let myself have that excuse and not say it's an excuse. But the diet and recovery is more important. But like for a master's athlete, if you're just doing our class programming, there's no reason to modify it. It's low volume, like doing 6 hours a week, 5 to 6 hours a week is low volume training. It's high intensity, but low volume. Right.
And if you feel like you're stuck somewhere, maybe it's not because you're a master's athlete. Maybe you need to do PT with Brandon or like.
Or like do PT with Brandon, or have an honest look at your sleep.
Yeah.
I think like that's something that I think is really, really important when it comes to that, is like really check that out. Mm-hmm. And then also check your diet. Yeah. Right. And like, especially like it's the little things that add up, right? Like in the diet, like it's the 1 or 2 drinks. Yeah. Like 3 drinks a week, 4. It adds up. Like just log it, see what's happening, and then. Yeah. Also, like be okay with it. Like if you enjoy your life and your training isn't going as fast as it could be, who cares?
That's the trade-off.
Yeah, you're here so you can have a fun, like enjoy your life. You're not here to like be the best at exercising. If you are here to be the best at exercising, awesome. We can talk about that. Yeah. Those rules still apply. But if you're not here to be the best at exercising, I'm not here to be the best at exercising. Mm-hmm. Are you here to be the best at exercising?
No.
Exactly. Frig no. I've seen what it takes to be the best at exercising. I want no part of that.
None of it.
None of that. No.
All Okay, yeah. And I think the mindset thing makes total sense too, because there are days like, maybe you get out of bed and like you feel a little like slower or sore stuff. But if you take the warm up, seriously, and like you're fine.
100%. And I don't want to like project on anyone, but I bet that there were days when I was younger where I felt the same way, but I didn't have age as an excuse. I just thought I was sore. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to train through that. Yeah. So I just don't like having excuses. Like excuses exist. Like there are justifiable reasons for things, but I think I just don't like using excuses to like justify like things. Like, sure. I also like, because it's a weird thing too. Like there's like a bunch of like, I don't really like the kind of like Instagram thing where people talk about like being sore all the time doing CrossFit. Yeah. Like it's like, if you think you're going to be sore all the time, you're going to be sore all the time. You're right. Right. And there's days I'm really sore until I start actually doing CrossFit, and then I'm less sore. Yeah. Like by the end of the workout, I feel better. But like, I just think that I understand it's funny and it's a thing people like to do, but sure. If you're sore all the time, like if you're 100% sore all the time, check your diet and recovery. If you're still sore all the time and those things are perfect and it's impacting, like you should talk to someone, because I'm not sore all the time. No. Like I'm sore sometimes, and I know I'm really sore. Are you sore all the time? No. Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to, like, Becky and I are young and we have the ability to kind of like, we're self-employed, so we can kind of make our own schedules a little bit and move around that. So we don't have kids. I don't want to project our experiences on other people, but I know that if I let myself be sore all the time, I would be, because it's a convenient excuse to be lazy. Yes. Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. So 2 questions that I think also go hand in hand with each other. One is, what's the sweet spot between undertraining and overtraining? And related to that, can you discuss the time you did 30 days of programming sans rest days, and what were your takeaways? Okay. So I think overtraining doesn't happen that often. It can, especially if you don't move so good, or you have some underlying like joint issues, you can overtrain. If you don't have underlying joint issues, it's a lot harder. And if you move really good, it's a lot harder. Because overtraining in our program is going to be repetitive use. The big thing it could happen is like if you're where I think the overtraining could happen is with RX athletes who are able to do everything RX, or the most things RX, but then maybe don't they aren't as focused on their 100% recovery, 100% everything else, but like they have the ability to turn a switch. Like I know that I'm careful because I know that if I did every single workout at 100% capacity and I was living my life right now, I would get hurt. Yeah. But like, because I've done CrossFit for like 10 years, I know enough to know that. And I think the people who are worried about that, I've discussed it with, Coach Brett, Coach Ganty are the big ones, I think, who are really good at kind of moderating their own training, because they're 2 people who are older but really fit who could have that happen. Mm-hmm. And they both have good approaches, and they know when to pull back on workouts. Mm-hmm. I'm always hesitant though, because like it goes back to what I said earlier. Like if you're newer, you don't have to pull back on workouts. Like until you've understood intensity, you don't you haven't found it. Mm-hmm. Once you've found intensity, you need to know when to apply it, and you should be going at like 80 to 90% most days. And then pick it one day a week to go 100%. I always tell people, if you don't know, go 80 to 90% on every day that says training. When it says testing or competing on the thing, that's where you can go 100%. Yeah. But if you're not an RX athlete, a consistently RX athlete, and you haven't done CrossFit for a few years, don't worry about it. Right. Treat every day like 100% focus and do your best, and you'll be fine. But those recovery day, and when it says recovery day or skill day, dial it way back. Yeah. I always dial those way back. Or those are the days I take unplanned rest days. Right. Right. If I don't feel super good. But going to your 30-day question, I almost always regret it. Yeah. Like when I did that, my only training was the class programming. I did every day, but when it said recovery day or rest day, recovery day or skill day, I really treated it like a recovery day or a skill day. So I just moved. And I would say that was probably the most progress I've made in my fitness. Okay. Yeah, doing that. And that was like right before COVID. So, and then I remember doing a workout in March, just before everything shut down. And I was really fit. I wasn't as strong as I am now, but I was really fit. And I had just done that. I had taken like 6 to 7 weeks without taking a rest day. But I found that as long as moving every day was better than not moving every day. Right. The only issue with that for me was it was mentally challenging to come into the gym or work out every day. Like the physical aspect was easy. The mental aspect of coming into work every day was really hard for me. And that's why I don't do it now. I need 2 days a week where I don't work out. And unfortunately, I'm not strong enough mentally to always work out at home, even though we have a bike and everything.
Sure.
Mallory's good at it. She's pretty good at working out every day, or at least doing some sort of movement every day.
Yeah.
But I struggle with it, and it's something I want to work on, but we're all works in progress.
Yep.
But as far as like overtraining is concerned, it's way less rare than people think it is. Undertraining is like most people are undertraining.
Wait, overtraining is more rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless you have like if you have a nagging shoulder or something, right? That's an overtrain. That's an overuse injury. It's not an overtraining injury.
Okay.
Overtraining is when your like body is literally shutting down when you work out and you can't keep going on. Overuse is when like you have a pinch in your shoulder every time you do pull-ups because you don't do pull-ups correct.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's good to clarify.
Yeah, overuse is like can definitely happen. Like I've had overuse stuff. Usually my elbows, but I know it's like when I do too many pull-ups without using my lats, so I start falling through my butterfly.
Right.
So, but that's on me. I know what causes it.
Right.
And I just don't always fix it. But when I do feel that, I just stop doing kipping pull-ups for a little bit and fix it. Mm-hmm. And by stopping doing kipping pull-ups and doing strict, it like makes my lats stronger and it corrects the issue.
Yeah.
And I think again, like most of our athletes who are RX are like our avatar athletes. They know when to self-scale, right? And so that's what's really good about our gym, I think.
Right.
Is like they have and I've tried to build that training awareness in people.
Yeah. So
they know their own bodies.
Gotcha. So if you've been doing CrossFit for a year or less, come as often as you can.
Yeah, come as often as you can. And the other thing, if you feel beat up, come anyways. Even if you've been like, first off, if you've been CrossFit for a year, come do 100% focus. If you focus 100% on each workout and try and get the intended stimulus out of it, nothing else is going to happen to you.
Yeah.
If you go a little too heavy one day, come in the next day, let a coach know, and we'll scale it.
Yeah.
But there's very few instances where you shouldn't come in if you're injured. Mm-hmm. And Megan and I talked about this on the podcast. We'll modify it. And people always, I don't want to take up the coach. We literally have that's our job. No one's going to be like, man, this person's hurt. I want to freaking help them.
Right.
No one thinks that. And if they do think that, they don't work here anymore.
Right. Yeah. I say that to people all the time. If they're like, oh, I saw the workout and it's something I couldn't do. Like, dude, if you want to come.
Terrence tweaked his back doing a pistol. He came in every day and rode the bike.
Yeah.
That's fun. We have a bike here. Come be a part of the community. Like, don't not come to the gym because you don't feel good.
Yeah, totally. Okay, awesome. So that was all the personal app development. It's a long ass podcast.
Yeah, it's fine.
And specific training questions. And now we've finally gotten to, I feel like, what people are dying to hear, which is your more personal questions.
Okay.
So I feel like the first half of these might like require a little bit more conversation, and then there might be some like rapid fire at the end. So we'll see how long this takes.
Okay.
First one is, why did you start CrossFit? All the coaches answered this one.
All the coach. Oh yeah, I made the coaches answer this question.
Like the first.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh yeah. So I was dating a girl, and we were in grad school, and she went to a CrossFit gym to try it out. She was more active than I was, and she came back and she said the guy demonstrated push-ups and he had muscles that she had never seen before. So I signed up the next day. 100%. I lost a bunch of weight. I wasn't like at that point. I'd already lost a lot of weight, like from doing other stuff. I'd been to the gym on my own, but it wasn't nearly as effective, obviously, as CrossFit was.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So I mean, that's what got you in the door, and then Okay, cool. What other jobs have you had?
My last job before coaching CrossFit was I was professor of the history of 20th century sexualities. So that's my last job.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, history of 20th century sexualities.
Awesome.
Professor, yeah. That's my last job before coaching CrossFit.
What do you love the most about owning a gym?
Watching people accomplish things they didn't think they could do. Like today, you met Sarah. Like she was really happy with that, even though she wouldn't admit it. Maybe she wasn't. I don't know. But she seemed happy. I'm going to tell myself she was happy.
Yeah.
Terrence PR'd his snatch last week. I came in and I helped him with that, and he was really happy. So that was really like that. That was selfish of me. I selfishly made him PR his snatch because I was kind of down and I needed to feel good about myself. So I made Terrence accomplish something. I told him he was going to snatch 200 pounds. He didn't believe me, and he snatched 201 that day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But it was for me because I had a bad morning, and so I needed that.
Well, that's nice. I mean, I think that goes back to I don't do this specifically for money. Like this is actually rewarding for you.
Yeah.
To say. A flip side of that, what are pet peeves in the gym?
People being late. Some. Yeah, people just being late. 100% people being late. That's like the thing and if it's like a lot of people are late, it puts me in a bad mood. It's just, I really like to teach. And if I'm people are late. I guess anything that takes away from my ability to teach upsets me.
Yeah.
So people being late and people not paying attention when I'm doing the board brief are two things that bug me. And the reason I'm no longer teaching at the university is because a lot of university students didn't actually want to be there to learn. And I really like teaching. So when I realized that it was more effective to teach here, that was another reason I left academia. I found that for the most part, people in a CrossFit gym are more likely to engage with what I'm teaching than a bunch of engineering students taking what they think is a bird course as an elective at U Waterloo. So that's why. So anything that stops me from teaching is annoying.
Okay. Anything specific that inspires you?
I think the same answer is just when people do things they don't think they could do. My staff, I think my staff is like my biggest inspiration because like everyone they all invest more than they have to into the business. And they don't really get much out of that financially. And I really appreciate that. So I think a lot of my decision making comes down to trying to support them because I know that for the most part, it's like they're choosing to do this. And so I feel very grateful for that. And it's really important to me that I continue to do that. And if they're doing a good job, not only do I have less stuff to do, but everyone benefits from it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so. And I think it's like validation of your bigger vision, right?
Yeah.
It's just, people, right? People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it.
Exactly. Kind of so I don't know. Maybe Becky can speak to that. Maybe I don't do that, but that's my goal.
Yeah, no, I think that makes the total sense. I mean, all your staff, save like one, are part-time. You have like other careers. Yeah. So we're not here for the money.
Yeah, and that's something I found that like in general, like I used to think that you couldn't really coach part-time, but then I realized that if you give your coaches enough tools and they're actively, it's fine. It's hard to coach really, really well. It's not that hard to coach well if you're experienced at CrossFit.
Yeah.
And you have like other skills. Like it requires like a knowledge of CrossFit, and also like it requires like you either have to be like coaching full time or a natural extrovert, I think is the only thing.
Yeah.
It's like if you're naturally introverted and you've never done CrossFit before, it's probably really hard to coach. If you've done a lot of CrossFit and you're naturally extroverted, it's pretty hard to coach a group class once a week.
Right.
And then it's kind of like if you're only coaching once a week, it's not as big a deal if you miss out on some little things, because that's what Brandon and I are for, is to do that. Right. And it's almost not a better experience, but different experience because you bring a different energy to the facility.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. So a lot of gyms closed in the last year. What motivated you to stay open during the pandemic?
Well, there's two things, I guess, very split. First, I really felt that it was important people continued to be active for a variety of reasons, the health benefits, but also the mental avenue of it. I know that it was really hard on me to close the gym, and I assume, again, not special, I assume everyone was kind of feeling the same way. So doing what I could to provide a community for people and provide an outlet, also a sense of normalcy. Like I wanted to create a sense of normalcy in life, even though life was super abnormal. And I felt that we could do that. I think we did. So that was a big motivation. Like I'm assuming that question means to keep the like classes going or just like abandon the gym completely.
It's a good question.
We'll assume both.
Yeah.
So to keep people motivated in their fitness, and I was happy that I think I'd invested so much into this space because I was able to kind of draw on some of that capital. And what I mean by that is people believed enough in what I said, and I believed in what I was saying, and they continued to do it, and so we still saw progress.
Right.
So I think a lot of people could have stagnated, but we switched, the first lockdown, we switched to a running focus and a bodyweight focus, and people improved their 5K times, they improved their like L-sits, and they did all these things. And even like into that second or third or whatever was lockdown, people were still getting L-sits, and I think L-sits a very good skill. So we were able to do that, and people believed in me enough to listen when I said, hey, we're going to, but I know that with other places, people kind of just gave up on their gyms because they didn't think they'd be able to maintain their fitness. But I was appreciative that people believed in us, that we were able to help them. And I think we did. And then a lot of stuff in the middle of the pandemic was just keeping people engaged and giving them something to do because I felt it was important. And then in the last lockdown, we didn't do as much because we were kind of like, well, this has like been really hard on people. I don't want to keep pushing people. Like the people who are going to stick with us are going to stick with us. It's been a long time. Also, I knew it was closer to the end than the beginning. Right? And I was realistic about the lockdown because I do have, I guess, if it isn't obvious, I started a doctorate in Canadian history in the 20th century and with a focus on nutritional policy. So that means I had to do courses on the history of medicine in Canada. So I had studied the influenza epidemic,
right?
And I understood. I had studied like vaccination, and I understood that like with the influenza, it was going to be the COVID was going to be a long period of time.
Yeah.
I also understand still with like the hesitancy around like polio vaccination is going to take a while. So I understood these things, but I knew that once we got past into February, it was closer to the end of the beginning. But at the start was just keep people motivated and try and like get like at least another like 6 or 8 months where people are still kind of positive until the bleakness set in that I knew was going to happen and nothing you do about it.
And I'm just going to go back to your vision, because again, this was envision a community of like-minded individuals striving for physical and mental self-betterment through movement, which is a really applicable vision in this sense. Like so many brands have visions. Like for example, a CrossFit gym would be like to be the leading gym in Toronto with blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And that makes it impossible to pivot when something like a pandemic happens. So you still found a way to pursue your vision despite this.
And that was it. And that was kind of like the focus. The other reason was, and like I'll be 100% transparent, it would have made more sense for us to close, especially when equipment was going for like 5 to 6 times what it was worth. I literally did a spreadsheet where like how much we could make, how much I could make off selling everything. But Mal, I was not close. I don't want to like alarm anyone, but it was a very real discussion I had with Mallory, and she wouldn't let me do it, which I'm grateful for, obviously. So that was the other reason. Mallory essentially, even if I was like going to close it, I think eventually she would have let me, but she wouldn't let me do it without like really, really wanting to. And so she was able to kind of like when I was depressed and really struggling, because Zoom wasn't the same, and it was really hard for me. Like I said, I was feeling down, so I made Terrence PR a snatch. Without having the ability to do that, it was really hard for me to stay motivated. So I'm very grateful that she didn't let me close the gym, I guess. But that's the other reason is.
I'm guessing a lot of people are.
Yeah. So those are the two big things. Like obviously the primary, helping people was primary, but then when I was like kind of done with the whole thing, because it was like really hard when we were open and closed again, especially like, even though at that point it made no financial sense to sell the gym, but I was still kind of done with it. Like I think it was like, I don't even remember when it was. We opened for a week and then we closed again outside, right? That was when I was kind of like super frustrated.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have plans for 10 to 20 years from now?
No. No idea. I mean,
until you get punched in the face, right?
Yeah, everyone has because like I used to have like a life plan. And I was doing a doctorate, and it was a well-funded doctorate. So I was set, and I was like pretty much not guaranteed a post, but I was like good enough at what I was doing that I'd probably be able to do something that very few people are able to do, which is teach at university. Most people aren't familiar with it, but teaching at university is very hard to do. There's very few like full-time positions, but I was under the impression that wasn't going to be a challenge for me. So I had a life plan. And I was pretty good at being an academic. I was better at being an academic than I am at being a gym owner. But it wasn't fulfilling. The only reason I did it was because it was easy. It came naturally to me. Yeah. Okay. So I did it, and I was good at it, and I had a life plan that involved getting tenure and all this stuff. And then I decided I hated it. Like I straight up hated teaching university. So then I did this, and I pivoted, and it was completely different. So I'll plan I have a 5-year plan. That doesn't really change much. It's just do exactly what I'm doing. Grow the online stuff, but I'm not like super impassioned about I like the online stuff, but I'm not like, I really think that it's a slippery slope that can lead to, I don't want to use the term sellout because it's not the 90s anymore. Right. But it can definitely lead to pollution of your vision. Because it like we make, right now with our online stuff, we make a decent amount of money, and it's really easy to see how it's easier money than running a gym, and it's more money than running a gym. And so I'm a little cautious about that, because I think that it also wouldn't be as potent. Like the online programming works because I see it every day. Right. So if I didn't have the gym, it probably wouldn't be as good. But yeah, so build the online stuff out a little bit. But that's like kind of that. I have some plans for in here next 5 years. Some of them. Big thing is we want to redo the front, sell some supplements, make like a somewhat, but maybe that's me selling out. Maybe my 4 $30 outdoor rugs taped together with Gorilla Tape is like what keeps us grounded, right? I don't know. Getting a nice entranceway might be the first step to like turning into a Barry's boot camp.
Amazing.
Right? Who knows?
We'll see.
So I don't know. I don't have any big plans.
We'll
keep doing what I'm doing. I'm very happy with my life.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I don't really need to change anything.
Wonderful. Favorite CrossFit lift or movement?
I like the Echo Bike because everyone else hates it. And I got on Wednesday, I got some people in the evening classes to understand why I like it. If you get it going to a certain speed, it's not that bad. And you feel way better than everyone who's struggling.
Okay. Least favorite?
Probably the front squat. I have a bad front rack mobility and I just don't love it.
Okay.
My weakest lift is my front squat. My clean and jerk and my snatch are like really close together, probably because of my weak front squat.
Interesting.
I clean and jerk 265, and that was with a power, and I power clean and push jerk 265 because I couldn't squat clean 250 or 260 or 260. I failed to squat, so I just powered it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So front squats, front squat weakness.
Do you have a favorite CrossFit athlete?
No. Okay. I met a bunch of CrossFit athletes when I was coaching more competitively, and it's probably changed now, but some of them were good, some of them were kind of douchey. So and a lot of the ones that you have seen positively have not always aren't always the most best. Sure. So I don't really have a favorite CrossFit athlete. Also, it's I don't want to I know some people are really into the sport of CrossFit, but they're literally just exercising. Yeah. It's kind of weird. I don't have a favorite athlete. I don't have a favorite. I'm inspired by my staff. I have staff. I really like my staff. I really there's some people in my personal life who really inspire me. But unless I know someone personally, it's really hard for me to get inspired by them.
That makes sense.
Because I've gotten to know some people who I was inspired by and they turned out to be not inspiring people.
Okay. Will you or Mallory ever try to compete as masters athletes?
Probably not. We'll do the open, and if it happens, we are master. We're all I don't want to speak for Mallory, but we'll both probably try and continue to improve our own fitness. Mallory is a little bit more aggressive about improving right now than I am, which is good. I like it. But I've tried to be competitive a long time ago, and I just didn't enjoy it. Yeah. So I'm never gonna be I want to be a competitive CrossFitter. I'm always gonna do CrossFit, obviously. I'm always gonna try and get better at it because that's the whole point of it. But I don't plan on trying to go to a masters, do anything masters based. If it happens, awesome. Okay. But also it's not you can just become a masters and the people who are in the 35 to 40 are games athletes from 2 years ago. Yeah. The people who are in the 40 to 45 are games athletes from 5 or 6 years ago. Right. You're not going to just catch them. And that's going to keep happening. Yeah. Right? It's not all of a sudden it's going to be some big thing. It's that boat is kind of sailed. Yeah. Right? It's not I'm all of a sudden, oh man, yeah, I just have to wait till I'm 35. There's a bunch of people who were at the games when they were in their 30s who are 35 now. Right. Right. Makes sense. I don't want to belittle anyone's attempts. Anyone can get better, but I also don't think that for any level, you should have realistic goals. So instead of being if I wanted to be a master's athlete, I wouldn't make my goal, I want to be a master's athlete at the games. My goal would be what can I do to make myself a master's athlete? My goal would be I want to go to bed and make sure I get 8.5 hours of sleep every night. Right. Then my other goal would be I want to get my nutrition dialed in, so I'm really confident in that. But I have no interest in doing either of those two things right now and making them goals. So I have no right to say I want to be a master's athlete, right? I have no interest in dialing my nutrition. It's already it's dialed in enough where I'm comfortable with it and I'm happy with it, and I both feel personally satisfied with my nutritional choices, but also I'm representing what I want other people to do. But I have no desire to take it the 10% harder I need to if I wanted to be competitive. I sleep pretty good, but some nights I stay up watching a movie or something. I have no desire to hard off and go to bed when I don't feel like going to bed. Right. Or get up and train when I don't feel I have no desire to do that. So, okay. So my goals don't follow. Does that make sense? Totally. Yeah. I don't want to speak for Mallory's small goals because I have no idea what they are in that relation. We don't sit down and have weird training goal set. Mallory, you don't do that.
We're gonna need Mallory to comment below.
Yeah, exactly. She's not gonna watch. She has not watched a single podcast. She's not gonna watch this one for sure. There's no way. I tried to get her to listen. There's no way she's listening to me talk for 2 hours.
Oh my god.
She gets enough of it. She knows every single answer to one of these questions. Yeah,
makes sense.
She doesn't need to know my programming philosophy because I've made her look at a week of programming and explained it to her, and she's reluctantly been a part of it. Yeah. It's not her job. She's reluctantly, she has a job that I don't understand. Yeah. She can't be I need you to help me stitch together this drone footage and put it on this map. I can't help her. So
just do it.
Just do it. Just help me. I can't help her. So she reluctantly helps me when I need it, but it's already a one-way street in our relationship. And I feel sometimes guilty about that.
Aw.
Well, I can't help her with her job.
Okay.
I'd be like, yo, I don't know the technical.
Okay.
She doesn't need help she clearly doesn't need help with her job.
Right.
But even if she did, like sometimes we work side by side, sometimes we'll be struggling with something and like I can't help her. But if I'm struggling to put a workout together, she can help me or at least throw out some ideas. Like she has a way, like,
right.
So I sometimes feel bad. I don't want to be like she struggles. But when she is like, when something is not going 100% right, I can't help her the way she can help me. And that's already like something I feel bad about.
Oh, you can help in other ways. You can make dinner.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a morning person?
No, I'm not a morning or an evening person. It goes back to what I say earlier.
Yeah.
Like if you believe you're a morning person, you're probably more likely to be a morning person. If you believe you're an evening person, you're more likely to be an evening person. So I don't really have a morning or an evening. Okay. So I find that like I don't like coaching after 6 p.m. for 2 reasons. One, I find it's hard to pay attention. Mm-hmm. So like maybe people think I'm nicer in the evening, and I probably am, but it's because like I'm struggling to even watch what people are doing because I'm tired.
Right.
I go to bed early or early-ish, and coaching at 6 and 7 is hard. 7 is like really challenging for me. So like sometimes I think people think I'm more of an evening person, but like I'm kind of like focused on actually not falling. Like I'm trying just to pay attention to everyone in the evenings. Whereas in the morning I'm super awake, so I see everything.
Gotcha.
Right. So especially like 6:30, I'm like wide awake for that. And so like when I see stuff, it's like there's more stuff for me to say. I'm more engaged, which should come across as grumpy, but it's just more intensity. Whereas in the evening, I have no intensity.
Yeah.
I'll come and hang out in the evening when Brandon's coaching, and people think I'm it's because I'm like not coaching, and I'm like kind of tired, but I'm just hanging out with people. It's a little bit different.
Interesting. All right. Any health and fitness related podcasts that you're listening to now that you would recommend?
Health and fitness related? No.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that people, and this is arrogant, and it is going to sound arrogant, and I'm okay with that. I don't think I'd recommend a health and fitness podcast to people because all the information they need is here. Mm-hmm. And the worst thing people can do is go to outside sources for information. Like I've spent a lot of time curating myself and staff on like learning everything that you guys need to know to be the best versions of yourself in terms of my mission and vision. So like what can happen is when you go outside of our walls, and again, I know it's arrogant, you can get information that disagrees with us, and then you're going to be paralyzed by that.
Yeah.
So I really don't encourage, unless you're really into it, but it's a very slippery slope to listen to specifically health and wellness podcasts and follow health and wellness Instagrams. And I know that can sound totalitarian, so I'm not saying to do that, but I don't recommend. There's no one I'd recommend.
Yeah.
Because like if it's good on training, again arrogant, I'll probably already listen to it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and if it's good on nutrition, Becky's probably already digested it. Mm-hmm. Because we're giant nerds when it comes to our things, and we spend a lot of time and we'll talk to each other about it. So like, there's no specific thing I recommend. If you really, really want one recommendation, it's the Catalyst Athletics YouTube channel.
Yeah.
That's my one thing. The Catalyst Athletics YouTube channel is the only thing I'll recommend. Whereas like Greg Everett knows way more about weightlifting than I do. He knows way more about coaching weightlifting than I do. And I've never heard him say something I don't agree with. He said stuff that goes against what I felt, and I just changed how I felt. Because he was right.
Amazing.
Right? But I was like, oh, why do you think? Oh, he is right.
Yeah.
Right? There's no other source for that.
And you link to a number of those videos.
And if you guys want more, there's tons of stuff in the coaches notes.
Yeah.
As for podcasts, no, I listen to like a bunch of CrossFit podcasts on the business of podcasts, but I usually listen to the business episodes because that's still something I feel I lag behind in. While I am not trying to make money, I do need the business to at least make enough money to pay my mortgage, pay the lease on the business, pay my staff, and invest money back into the business. So
cool.
And I feel like those are boring enough for me. I don't think you guys would enjoy them. I guess I sometimes listen to stuff on the sport of CrossFit as like a fan of CrossFit. Like I'll listen to the Talking Elite Fitness podcast. So if you're into the sport of, I'll listen to that, and I'll listen to some commentators about the sport of fitness. But it's more like if you watch hockey, you listen to a hockey podcast.
Right. Not to learn. Right.
No.
Okay. Final question.
Okay.
Of all. Rank in order from best to least the songs.
Wow.
Danger Zone, Days of Thunder, And playing with the boys.
Those are already in the right order. Danger zone number 1. Yeah, those are already in the right order.
Perfect. That's it.
And that's like actually like if you're doing like a 10 to 15 minute workout, that's a perfect length. Because 1 is like the start, like maybe shorter. Yeah, 8-minute Metcons, you get the danger zone to get you hyped up for that, like you need to go hard, and you get to kind of days of thunder, keep you going,
gotcha.
Right? And then you get the recovery workout and playing with the boys. Perfect recovery song. Brandon asked that question, didn't he?
No.
Oh, really?
Any other guesses?
No.
It was Phil.
It was Phil. That makes sense. Yeah. So that's that. Hopefully that answers people's questions.
I think we probably answered a lot of questions.
Yeah, hopefully people can listen through 2 hours and 10 minutes of podcast.
Oh my God.
1 hour.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. If I didn't answer a question, let me know. There's some blog content that touches on some of this stuff, both already on the website. We do have a blog that's never updated that talks about some of the programming stuff. There's a YouTube channel where I plan on putting more stuff up as I feel the urge to. The big issue, I'll say, a lot of times I don't put stuff out because, again, what I spoke to, I don't want you guys to like take it the wrong way and like overanalyze it and then become paralyzed by analysis. The other reason is like the only absolute I believe in is that only assholes speak in absolutes, right? That's the only absolute I believe in. And a lot of the time when you put stuff out on the internet, like content on training, it tends to be polemic because that's like, this is my view and it's the only way to do things. Like, for instance, I had a podcast I was going to do on leveled programming, but I understand why people are doing it. It's not for us, but I understand why people are doing it. And it turns out that middle ground content is both boring to record, boring to listen to, and doesn't get you any YouTube money. So, but if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments. Maybe some questions I can follow up on that.
And thank you for submitting the questions.
There's lots. I wasn't expecting that many questions.
Yeah, same. And I feel like if you had the question, probably 10 other people had it too. So.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks for the questions. We'll do this again probably in a little bit with me with some follow-up questions. It's always good. Yeah. And I'll re-listen to the podcast when I edit it, and then maybe I'll clarify anything that I feel I messed up on if it wasn't clear.
Sounds good.
I'll just edit it in. Be like, this is what I meant to say.
This is future Thom.
This is what I meant to say. It's just like every question is me. I spent all of Sunday just redoing it. You ask the question, it just cuts to me. And my lips aren't moving the same way. That's what I'm going to do.
That makes sense. Love it.